In wolf packs, they teach you that an alpha's word is law. What they don't teach you is that laws can become prisons, especially when an alpha makes a promise he never intended to keep. Sarah Nightshade learned this the night Alpha King Damon Blackthorn mocked her in front of 300 wolves. He learned it the day she came back to collect. They say words hold no power. They're wrong. Words, when spoken before witnesses under a blood moon, become vows. And vows, true vows, are chains that bind even kings. She was 19 when he destroyed her, 20 when she disappeared, 21 when she returned with white fire in her eyes and ancient power singing through her veins. He thought he was making a joke. She heard him make a promise. If you shift into your wolf, I'll make you Luna. He'd laughed, and the pack had laughed with him. She didn't laugh. She memorized every syllable. And in the wilderness, alone and broken, she turned his mockery into a vow he'd regret ever speaking. This is not a story about forgiveness. This is a story about collection. Chapter 1. The Night of Shame. The harvest moon ceremony was supposed to be beautiful. That's what Sarah told herself as she stood at the very back of the gathered pack, hidden behind bodies that wouldn't notice if she disappeared entirely. The ceremonial grounds of the Blackthorn pack sprawled across a natural amphitheater carved into the mountainside, ringed by ancient pines that had witnessed 1,000 such gatherings. Tonight, under the October moon, 300 wolves had assembled to watch their Alpha King choose potential candidates for his Luna. Sarah shouldn't have come. She knew that. Her mother had begged her to stay home. You'll only hurt yourself, watching. Lydia Nightshade had whispered, her eyes filled with the particular shame that came from birthing a defective child. Please, Sarah. Just stay in your room. But something stubborn in Sarah, the same stubborn thing that made her memorize every book in the pack library, that made her train her human body past exhaustion when her wolf refused to emerge, that stubborn thing had forced her feet down the mountain path to the ceremony. If I hide, they win, she'd thought. If I disappear, it means they're right about me. So she'd come. And now she stood in her simple gray dress, not the ceremonial leathers the other females wore, because what was the point? And watched as Alpha King Damon Blackthorn surveyed his options like a man choosing livestock. He was magnificent, of course. That was the worst part. 26 years old, 6'4" of pure muscle and predatory grace, with black hair that fell to his shoulders and eyes the color of amber whiskey. When he moved, people moved. When he spoke, people listened. And when he smiled, rare as that was, the entire pack felt the warmth of his approval like summer sun. Sarah had been half in love with him since she was 14, back when she still thought her wolf would come, back when she still believed in fairy tales, where defective omegas caught the eye of Alpha Kings. That was before she understood that fairy tales were lies told to children who didn't know better yet. The Luna of the Blackthorn pack. Damon's voice rang out across the ceremonial grounds, smooth and commanding. Must embody strength, grace, and pure wolf blood. She will stand beside me as we lead our people into prosperity. She will bear the next generation of alphas. Sarah's hands clenched at her sides. Pure wolf blood. The phrase was a knife aimed directly at her heart. Around her, females preened. Beautiful she-wolves with glossy hair and perfect figures, all of whom could shift at will, all of whom had their wolves by age 13 like nature intended. Let the candidates step forward. Elder Rowan called out, his ancient voice carrying the weight of tradition. One by one, 12 females moved into the center circle. Sarah recognized all of them. Melissa Ravencrest, daughter of the Beta. Tara Silverpaw, whose wolf was supposedly the fastest in the pack. Kira Moonshadow, who had trained as a warrior and could beat most males in combat. Each one was everything Sarah wasn't. Each one deserved to stand in that circle. Sarah began to turn away. She'd seen enough. She'd punished herself adequately for one night. Wait. The voice came from behind her. Thomas Ravencrest, the Beta's son, and one of the few pack members who'd ever been kind to her. Sarah, you should leave, he murmured urgently. Something feels off tonight. Damon's been in a strange mood. I'm already going, she whispered back, grateful for the warning but confused by his concern. But before she could slip away into the shadows, another voice cut through the night, loud, mocking, drunk on the attention of the crowd. Hey, isn't that the defective Omega hiding back there? Sarah's blood turned to ice. The voice belonged to Kyle Stonefang, a mid-ranked wolf with more cruelty than sense. He was pointing directly at her, his face split in a vicious grin. 300 pairs of eyes turned to stare. Sierra's breath stopped. This was her nightmare. This was every anxiety that had ever kept her awake at night manifesting in real time. "Kyle, shut up," Thomas hissed. But his voice was lost in the sudden murmur of interest rippling through the crowd. "What's she even doing here?" Kyle continued, emboldened by the attention. "This is a ceremony for real wolves, not broken humans playing dress-up." Laughter. Not from everyone. Some wolves looked uncomfortable, but enough. Enough to make Sarah's cheeks burn with humiliation. "That's enough." Elder Rowan's voice tried to restore order, but the damage was done. And then worst of all, Alpha King Damon Blackthorn's gaze found her across the distance. For one moment, she thought she saw something flicker in those amber eyes. Surprise? Recognition? She'd grown up in this pack, had seen him countless times, though he'd never looked at her directly before. Why would he? She was nobody. Nothing. But now he was looking. And the longer he stared, the more the crowd quieted, waiting to see what their alpha would do. "Please," Sarah thought desperately. "Please just ignore me. Please let this moment pass." Instead, Damon Blackthorn smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator who'd spotted something amusing, something to toy with. "Bring her forward," he commanded. The words echoed like a death sentence. "Alpha, that's not necessary," Elder Rowan began. But Damon cut him off with a raised hand. "I said bring her forward. If she's part of my pack, she has every right to be seen during a Luna ceremony. Don't you agree?" The words sounded reasonable, generous, even. But Sarah heard the trap beneath them. Hands she didn't know whose pushed her forward. The crowd parted, creating a path straight to the center circle where Damon stood surrounded by his beautiful, perfect candidates. Sarah walked because she had no choice. Each step felt like walking to her execution. When she reached the circle, she kept her eyes down. Maybe if she showed enough submission, enough humility, he'd lose interest. Maybe this was just a momentary cruelty and then she could disappear forever. "Look at me." The alpha command in his voice left her no choice. Her head snapped up, her eyes meeting his against her will. Up close, he was even more devastating, and the cruelty in his slight smile was unmistakable. He began to circle her slowly, like a wolf circling prey. The candidates who'd been so proud moments ago now looked uncertain, sensing that the night had taken a strange turn. "Sarah Nightshade," Damon said thoughtfully, as if tasting her name for the first time. 19 years old. Daughter of Robert and Lydia Nightshade, both respectable pack members. Your father is a skilled tracker. Your mother works in the pack kitchens. Your older brother Finn shifted at 12 and now serves in my guard. He knew her family history. That somehow made it worse. And you." He stopped in front of her, tilting his head. "You still can't shift, can you?" The question hung in the air like poison. "No, Alpha," Sarah forced out, her voice barely above a whisper. "Speak up. The pack can't hear you." She lifted her chin, finding a splinter of defiance buried beneath her shame. "No, Alpha. I cannot shift." "How?" "Tragic." The word dripped with false sympathy. "Every single member of your bloodline shifted by 13. Your brother at 12. Even your grandmother, may she rest in peace, shifted at 11. But you." He gestured at her gray dress. Her unremarkable human form. Nothing. Not a claw. Not a fang. Not even eyes that change color. Just human. Every word was a knife. Every word was true. The pack was silent now, watching this public dissection of the defective Omega, with the kind of horrified fascination usually reserved for accidents. Sierra's hands trembled at her sides. She wanted to run. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to die right there in that circle rather than endure another second of this calculated humiliation. But she didn't run. Something in her, that same stubborn thing, refused to give him the satisfaction. "I'm sorry I'm a disappointment, Alpha," she heard herself say, and was proud that her voice didn't break. "Oh, you're not a disappointment," Damon corrected, his amber eyes glinting with something dark. "You can't disappoint people who never expected anything from you in the first place." The crowd gasped. Even by wolf standards, brutal, hierarchical, unforgiving, that was exceptionally cruel. Elder Rowan stepped forward again. "Alpha Damon, the ceremony should continue. I'm not finished." Damon held up one hand, silencing the elder. His eyes never left Sarah's face. "You came to a Luna selection ceremony. Why? Hoping to be chosen?" It was so absurd it should have been funny. Instead, it was just devastating. "No, Alpha," Sarah said quietly. "No?" He feigned surprise. "But you're an unmated female, of appropriate age. Technically, you're eligible. I came to," she didn't know how to finish, "to torture myself, to pretend I'm part of this pack, to hope for something I'll never have." Damon leaned in closer, and she could smell him pine and smoke and raw masculine power. His wolf was right there beneath his skin, making her want to bare her throat in submission even as her human pride screamed in protest. "Tell you what," he said, loud enough for the entire pack to hear. "I'll make you a deal, little Omega." Sarah's heart hammered. This was the moment. The moment that would define everything that came after, though she didn't know it yet. "If you can shift into your wolf," Damon Blackthorne declared, his voice ringing with absolute confidence and casual cruelty, "I'll make you my Luna." The pack erupted. Laughter, harsh, disbelieving, shocked laughter rolled across the ceremonial grounds like thunder. The beautiful candidates looked outraged. The warriors guffawed. Even some of the females who'd seemed sympathetic couldn't suppress their incredulous giggles. Because it was absurd. It was impossible. It was the funniest joke their Alpha King had ever told. But Sarah didn't laugh. She stood perfectly still in the center of that mocking circle, and something ancient stirred in her blood. Something that recognized the weight of words spoken under a harvest moon before 300 witnesses. Her voice, when it came, was clear and cold as winter water. "You just made a blood vow before witnesses." The laughter faltered. Damon's smile widened, delighted by her defiance. "Did I?" "Yes." Sarah took one step closer to him, and something in her eyes must have shone differently because his smile flickered for just a heartbeat. "When I shift, not if, Alpha. When you will make me your Luna." "If you shift, little Omega," he corrected, still amused. "When," she repeated, holding his gaze. "And I'll hold you to every word." For a moment, just one moment, something like uncertainty crossed his handsome face. Then it was gone, replaced by condescending amusement. "Then I suppose I have nothing to worry about," he said lightly. "Since we both know you'll never shift." He turned away from her, dismissing her entirely. "Elder Rowan, let's continue the ceremony." But Elder Rowan was staring at Sarah with something like horror in his ancient eyes. "Alpha Damon, blood vows spoken under the harvest moon are binding. Perhaps you should." "I said what I said," Damon cut him off, irritation finally creeping into his voice. "She'll never shift. It's harmless." Damon, his beta, Thomas's father, tried to intervene. "Enough." The Alpha command rippled through the air, forcing submission. "The defective Omega is dismissed. Let's get back to selecting an actual Luna." Sarah should have run. She should have slunk away in shame. Instead, she turned slowly, surveying the 300 wolves who'd witnessed her humiliation. Then she looked back at Damon Blackthorne one last time. "When I shift," she said, her voice carrying despite its quietness, "you will make me Luna. That's pack law. That's your word. And I will come back to collect." She didn't wait for his response. She walked through the silent crowd with her head high, every ounce of her will focused on keeping her legs steady, her spine straight. Behind her, she heard Damon's mocking laughter ring out. "Don't keep me waiting too long." More laughter followed her down the mountain path. Sarah didn't cry. Not yet. Not where they could see. She made it to her family's small cabin at the edge of pack territory before her legs finally gave out. Her mother found her on the doorstep, shaking uncontrollably but still tearless. "Oh, baby," Lydia whispered, pulling her inside. "What happened?" Sarah couldn't speak. Not yet. The wound was too fresh, the humiliation too complete. But in her mind, a single phrase repeated like a prayer, like a promise, like a vow of her own. "When I shift, you will make me Luna. When I shift, you will make me Luna." When I shift, you will make me Luna. She didn't know how. She didn't know if it was even possible. But she would shift, she would return, and Damon Blackthorne would regret every word he'd spoken this night. Chapter 2. The Decision to Leave. 3 days passed before Sarah could face leaving her room. 3 days of lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of her humiliation in excruciating detail. 3 days of her mother bringing food she couldn't eat. 3 days of hearing the whispers even through closed doors. Did you hear what the Alpha said to Robert's daughter? I heard she actually thought she had a chance. The poor thing. Imagine being so delusional. My cousin said the Alpha was laughing about it for hours afterward. On the 4th day, Sarah forced herself to stand. To wash. To dress in clean clothes. To pretend she was still a person and not just a walking wound. Her reflection in the cracked mirror showed a stranger. Hollow-eyed, pale, thinner than she'd been a week ago. Her dark hair hung limp around her face. Her gray eyes, human gray, not the gold or amber or silver of wolf eyes, stared back with something that looked like death. You can't hide forever, she told her reflection. The girl in the mirror didn't answer. Sarah descended the narrow stairs of their cabin to find her mother in the kitchen, mechanically chopping vegetables for a stew that probably no one would eat. Lydia Nightshade looked up when she heard footsteps, and the relief in her eyes was painful to witness. Sarah, you're up. I'm up, Sarah confirmed, though her voice sounded hollow even to her own ears. How are you feeling? How was she feeling? Humiliated. Destroyed. Like every fear she'd ever had about herself had been confirmed in front of 300 witnesses. Like the Alpha King had reached into her chest and pulled out her still-beating heart just to show her it was defective too. I'm fine, Sarah lied. Her mother's hands stilled on the knife. Baby, what he said, what he did, that was cruel. Even for an Alpha, he was right though. Sarah moved to the small table, sat down heavily. I am defective. I can't shift. I don't belong at ceremonies like that. I was foolish to go. You're not defective. Lydia's voice was fierce. You're just different. Late blooming. That's all. My grandmother didn't shift until she was 22. Mom. Sarah cut her off gently. I've heard the stories. Great-great-grandmother Alara. The late bloomer who eventually shifted and lived to be 112. But that was one wolf, 3 generations ago. And I'm 19 with no sign of a wolf. No stirring, no instincts. Nothing. You don't know that. The moon works in mysterious. Please, Sarah's voice cracked. Please don't give me hope. It's worse than having none. Lydia's face crumpled. She crossed to her daughter, pulled her into an embrace that smelled of herbs and mother love and home. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry he did that to you. Sarah let herself be held for a moment, drawing strength from the contact. Then she gently pulled away. Where's Dad? And Finn? Your father is on patrol. Finn is. Lydia hesitated. He's been picking up extra shifts. I think he's avoiding coming home. He's ashamed. Of me? The words tasted like ash. No, baby. Of what happened. Of not being able to protect you. You know how your brother is. Sarah did know. Finn Nightshade was 22, a strong beta wolf, loyal to a fault. He'd probably wanted to challenge the Alpha for humiliating his sister. The fact that such a challenge would be suicide wouldn't have stopped him, only their father's orders would have kept him in check. Tell him I'm okay, Sarah said. Tell him it doesn't matter. But it did matter. It mattered more than anything. The knock on the door startled them both. Lydia moved to answer it, and Sarah heard the low rumble of male voices. When her mother returned, she wasn't alone. Elder Rowan stood in their small kitchen, looking impossibly ancient and impossibly tired. He was one of the few wolves who'd lived past 200 years. His wolf long since gone dormant. His human form stooped with age, but his eyes still sharp. Miss Nightshade, he greeted formally. May I speak with you? Alone? Lydia looked like she wanted to protest, but Sarah nodded. It's fine, Mom. You can go check on the stew. It was an obvious dismissal, but her mother took it gratefully, slipping out the back door to give them privacy. Elder Rowan settled into a chair with a sigh that sounded like it came from his bones. He studied Sarah for a long moment, before speaking. You should not have challenged him publicly. I didn't challenge him, Sarah said quietly. I simply reminded him of pack law. Pack law. The elder's lips twitched, almost a smile. Yes, you did. And now the pack is divided. Sarah's head snapped up. Divided? Oh, not openly. Not in any way that threatens his rule. But there are whispers. The older wolves, those who remember when blood vows meant something sacred, they're uncomfortable. They say the alpha spoke carelessly. That he should retract the vow before it becomes binding. Can he? Despite herself, Sarah felt her heart clench. Can he retract it? Technically, yes. Before the next full moon. After that, Elder Rowan shook his head. After that, if you were to shift, the vow would be absolute. He would be bound by pack law to make you Luna or forfeit his position as alpha. The information settled over Sarah like a blanket of ice. So there was a time limit. A month. Less than a month before the vow became unbreakable. He'll retract it, Sarah said dully. Of course he will. Why wouldn't he? Pride. Elder Rowan leaned forward. The Alpha King is proud. To retract the vow now would be admitting he made a mistake. That he spoke without thinking. That he could be wrong. And Alpha Daemon Blackthorn does not admit mistakes. Then he'll wait until the last moment. The night before the full moon. Maximum humiliation for me. Perhaps. The elder reached into his worn leather satchel and pulled out something wrapped in faded cloth. Or perhaps not. He placed the bundle on the table between them. What is this? Sarah asked, not touching it. Your birthright. Or at least part of it. Elder Rowan's gnarled fingers unwrapped the cloth, revealing an ancient book. The leather cover was cracked and worn, the pages yellowed with age. Strange symbols were etched into the binding symbols Sarah didn't recognize. I don't understand. The Nightshade bloodline, Elder Rowan said slowly, is older than the Blackthorn line by 300 years. Did you know that? Sarah blinked. That's... No. Dad never said. Because your father doesn't know. Most of the pack doesn't know. Records are lost. Lineages are forgotten. But I am old. Miss Nightshade. I remember things. He tapped the book. And this remembers even more. Sarah's hand trembled as she reached for the tome. The moment her fingers touched the cover, something sparked. Not pain exactly, more like recognition. Like the book knew her. What is this? She whispered again. A grimoire of sorts. Written by the first Omegas, the ancient ones, before packs became hierarchies, before alphas ruled and Omegas served. Back when Omega meant the last to shift, not the least in power. The words hung in the air like magic. Elder Rowan continued, his voice taking on the cadence of a storyteller. The ancient Omegas didn't shift at puberty like common wolves. They shifted when they chose to. When they were ready. When they had accumulated enough knowledge, enough strength, enough will. Their transformations weren't biological accidents, they were conscious choices. Rituals. Awakenings. Sarah's hands tightened on the book. Are you saying? I'm saying your defect might not be a defect at all. It might be dormancy. Your bloodline is old, Miss Nightshade. Older than you know. And old blood doesn't bow to the same rules as common blood. Hope dangerous, terrible hope flared in Sarah's chest. She tried to crush it, but it wouldn't die. Why are you telling me this? Why give me this? The elder's expression grew grave. Because Alpha Daemon humiliated you publicly. Because he made a vow he thinks is meaningless. Because I am tired of watching arrogant young alphas forget that power comes with responsibility. He stood slowly, bones creaking. And because I looked into your eyes that night, Miss Nightshade, I saw something there, something that reminded me of the old wolves, the dangerous ones. He moved toward the door, then paused. The book is yours. What you do with it is your choice. But know this. The path of awakening is not easy. It will break you, before it makes you. And even if you succeed. He met her eyes. Even if you shift into your wolf and return to claim that vow. You must ask yourself, is revenge worth binding yourself to a male who mocked you? It's not about revenge, Sarah said quietly. It's about justice. Elder Rowan smiled, a real smile this time, sharp as a blade. Then perhaps you are an omega after all. The ancient kind. He left without another word. Sarah sat alone in the kitchen, the grimoire heavy in her hands, her mind spinning. She opened the book carefully. The first page was written in a language she didn't know, but as she stared at it, the symbols began to shift, rearranging themselves into words she could read. To the omega who finds this, you are not broken. You are dormant. You are not weak. You are choosing. You are not last. You are gathering power that common wolves waste in their youth. When you shift, you will not be like them. You will be more. Tears blurred Sarah's vision. She blinked them away furiously, reading on. The grimoire detailed exercises, physical, mental, spiritual, ways to connect with the wolf that slept inside her, ways to coax it awake, ways to survive the awakening when it came. The first shift of an omega is agony. One passage read, common wolves shift young, when their bones are still soft, their minds still flexible. You will shift as an adult. Your bones will break and remake themselves. Your mind will fracture and reform. You will want to die. You must choose to live. Sarah read until the sun set and her mother returned. She read until her father came home and stared at the ancient book with confusion and worry. She read until Finn burst through the door, smelling of pine and anger, demanding to know if she was all right. I'm leaving, Sarah announced when her family had gathered around the table. Silence. What? Her father's voice was hoarse. Sarah. No, I have to. She closed the grimoire gently. I can't stay here. Everyone knows what happened. Every time I walk through Packlands, they'll remember. They'll whisper. They'll pity me or mock me or both. We'll protect you, Finn said fiercely. Anyone who says anything will be well within their rights, Sarah finished. The Alpha King humiliated me publicly. Fighting his subjects won't change that. It'll just make things worse. Where will you go? Her mother asked, tears already streaming down her face. Into the mountains. Into the wild lands. Sarah looked at each of them. I'm going to train. I'm going to awaken my wolf. And when I shift. She paused, feeling the weight of the words. When I shift, I'm coming back. And Damon Blackthorn will keep his vow. Baby, that could take years, Lydia began. Or months. Or never. Sarah stood. Resolute. But I have to try. Don't you see? If I stay here like this, I'll die. Maybe not physically. But everything that makes me me will die. At least out there, alone, I'll have a chance. Robert Nightshade, her father, a wolf of few words and quiet strength, finally spoke. Your great-great-grandmother Elara. When she was your age and hadn't shifted. She did the same thing. Went into the wilderness for 6 months. Came back with a white wolf that made Alpha's bow. Robert. Lydia breathed. It's true. My grandfather told me the story. I never mentioned it, because I didn't want to give Sarah false hope. He looked at his daughter with something like pride. But you have her eyes, her stubbornness, her spine. If you're going, Finn said suddenly, I'm going with you. No. Sarah's voice was firm. I have to do this alone. The grimoire says. She caught herself. But it was too late. Grimoire? Her father's eyes narrowed. Where did you get a grimoire? Elder Rowan brought it. He said it belonged to the ancient Omegas. It's a guide. For awakening. Her family exchanged looks, worry, hope, fear, all mixed together. If Elder Rowan gave it to you, Robert said slowly, then he believes you can do this. The elder doesn't waste time on lost causes. I'm not a lost cause, Sarah said, lifting her chin. I'm dormant. There's a difference. That night, Sarah packed. Not much, she couldn't carry much. Changes of clothes. A knife. Flint for fires. The grimoire. Wrapped carefully in waterproof cloth. Dried meat and grain that would last a few weeks if she was careful. Her mother tried 3 more times to convince her to stay. Her father checked her supplies with military precision, adding things she'd forgotten. Finn pressed his own hunting knife into her hands, the one their grandfather had given him, and made her promise to come back alive. Not just alive, Sarah corrected. I'm coming back shifted. Coming back powerful. Coming back to collect what I'm owed. Revenge? Finn asked quietly. Justice, Sarah replied. She left at dawn, before the pack was fully awake. Before she could second-guess herself. Before fear could root her feet to familiar ground. The mountain path led away from packlands, into territories that were wild and unclaimed, dangerous. Where rogues roamed and predators hunted. Perfect. Sarah didn't look back. If she looked back, she might lose her nerve. If she looked back, she might see her mother crying on the porch, and that would break her. Instead, she looked forward. Toward the wilderness. Toward the unknown. Toward the wolf that slept inside her, waiting to be awakened. As she walked, she whispered the words that had become her mantra. The words that would sustain her through whatever came next. When I shift, you will make me Luna. When I shift, you will make me Luna. When I shift, you will make me Luna. Behind her, in the Alpha's den at the heart of Packlands, Damon Blackthorne was having his morning coffee when his beta knocked on the door. The Nightshade girl, Thomas Ravencrest reported. She's left Packlands. Her family says she won't be back. Damon barely looked up from the territorial maps spread across his desk. Good. Saves me the trouble of exiling her. One less defective wolf to worry about. Alpha, about the vow you made. There is no vow, Damon interrupted coldly. There's a joke that went over poorly. Forget about it. But Thomas saw something flicker in his Alpha's eyes. Something that looked almost like regret. Almost like uncertainty. It was gone in a heartbeat. Dismissed, Damon said, returning to his maps. Thomas left, but the uneasy feeling in his gut remained. In the wilderness, Sarah found a cave. It was small, defensible, near a stream. It would do. She unpacked her supplies, arranged her small camp, and as the sun set on her first day alone, she opened the grimoire to the first exercise. Stand in the stream until you cannot feel your feet. This is the first lesson. Your body is a tool, not a master. Pain is information, not a command. When you can stand until moonrise without flinching, you may proceed to the second lesson. Sarah removed her boots, walked to the stream. The water was ice cold, fed by mountain snow. She stepped in and didn't flinch. When I shift, you will make me Luna. She stood until she couldn't feel her legs. When I shift, you will make me Luna. She stood until the moon rose full and silver above the mountains. When I shift, you will make me Luna. And she didn't flinch. Chapter 3. The awakening begins. The grimoire was merciless. Sarah had expected mystical wisdom, ancient secrets whispered in poetic verse. What she got were instructions that read like a sadist's training manual. Day 1. Stand in the stream until moonrise. Day 2. Stand in the stream while holding stones above your head. Day 3. Stand in the stream while your body tries to convince you that you're dying. You are not dying. You are learning that your wolf is stronger than your fear. By day 3, Sarah's lips were blue, her hands numb, her entire body shaking so violently she thought her bones might break from the tremors alone. But she stood. Because the alternative, going back to Packlands as the defective Omega who couldn't even complete the first lesson, was worse than freezing. On day 4, the grimoire's instructions changed. Run. Not as a human runs, but as a wolf would run if trapped in human skin. Feel the ghost of your paws striking earth. Feel the phantom of your tail balancing your stride. Feel the echo of your wolf in every movement. Your body knows how to be a wolf. You have simply forgotten to remember. Sarah ran. She ran through the forest on paths that didn't exist, leaping over fallen logs, dodging between trees, her breath ragged and her muscles screaming. She ran until her human body wanted to collapse, and then she ran further, searching for that ghost feeling the grimoire described. On the 7th day, she felt it. Just for a moment, a single, perfect moment, her stride changed, her balance shifted. Something in her body moved the way a wolf's body would move, and for that heartbeat of time, she felt 4 legs instead of 2. Then it was gone, and she was tumbling to the ground, gasping and sobbing with frustration and hope tangled together. But she had felt it, the echo of her wolf, the promise that it was there, waiting. When I shift, you will make me Luna. She whispered the vow every night before sleep took her. She whispered it every morning when her body refused to move. She whispered it when the loneliness threatened to drown her. The words became a heartbeat, a prayer, a promise to herself more than to him. The nightmare started on the 8th day. Sarah would fall into exhausted sleep and find herself standing in the ceremonial grounds again, surrounded by 300 laughing faces. But in the dreams, she was naked, exposed, and when she tried to speak, no sound came out. Only Damon's voice, over and over. Still can't shift. How? Tragic. She would wake gasping, clawing at her throat, certain she'd been screaming but hearing only silence. The grimoire had a section on dreams. When the wolf begins to wake, it will fight you. It has been dormant so long that consciousness feels like death. Your dreams will be battlegrounds. Do not run from them. Enter them with intention. Speak to your wolf in the language of sleep. Tell it you are ready. Tell it you are strong enough to survive the awakening. That night, when the nightmare came, Sarah didn't try to wake up. Instead, she stood in that dream circle and let the laughter wash over her. She looked directly at Dream Damon, with his cruel amber eyes and his mocking smile. You made a vow, she said, and her voice worked this time. When I shift, you will make me Luna. Dream Damon laughed harder. You'll never shift, little Omega. Then why? Sarah asked calmly. Are you in my dreams? If I'm nothing, if this is impossible, why do you haunt me? The dream fractured. The ceremony grounds melted away. And Sarah found herself standing in a clearing she didn't recognize, facing a wolf made of moonlight and shadow. The wolf was massive, far larger than any wolf she'd seen in the pack. Its fur was white as snow, its eyes a burning gold that seemed to see straight through her. Are you my wolf? Sarah breathed. The wolf didn't answer. It simply stared, assessing, judging. I'm ready, Sarah said. I'm ready to wake up. The wolf's lips pulled back in what might have been a snarl or might have been a smile. Then it lunged, and Sarah felt teeth close around her throat. She woke screaming, but when she pressed her hands to her neck, searching for wounds, she found only 2 small marks, like pinpricks. Like a promise. The grimoire's next page was waiting when she checked it at dawn. When your wolf bites you in dreams, it is testing you. It is asking, are you strong enough to house me? Are you brave enough to become me? If the answer is yes, the marks will appear. Wear them with pride. Your awakening has truly begun. Sarah touched the marks on her throat and smiled for the first time in 2 weeks. The exercises intensified. Climb until your fingers bleed. Swim until your lungs burn. Fight the trees until your knuckles break. Your human body must be pushed past every limit before your wolf body can emerge. There is no gentle awakening. There is only breaking and remaking. Sarah climbed the cliff face near her cave until her fingernails tore off. She swam in the freezing stream until hypothermia made her hallucinate. She punched trees until her hands were bloody ruins. And every night, she read the grimoire by firelight, searching for reassurance that this agony had meaning. You will want to quit. Every Omega does. But quitting means returning to a life where you are less, where you are broken, where you are pitied. Is that life worth avoiding pain? Only you can answer. No. That life was not worth it. Sarah pushed harder. On day 19, something shifted. She was climbing the cliff face, a route she'd attempted 6 times and failed 6 times when her hands changed. Just for a second. Just long enough to see claws emerge from her fingertips. Black claws. Sharp claws. Wolf claws. She was so shocked she lost her grip and fell 20 feet into the river below. But she didn't care. She dragged herself to shore, gasping and laughing like a madwoman, staring at her human fingers that had been for 1 impossible second something else. I have claws, she told the indifferent forest. I have fucking claws. The grimoire confirmed it that night. When pieces of your wolf begin to appear, do not force them. Do not chase them. Simply acknowledge them. Thank them. Your wolf is learning to trust you. Each piece that emerges is a gift. Treasure it. Sarah treasured it. She treasured the claws that came and went. She treasured the moment her eyes changed color. Just for a heartbeat. Flash gold instead of gray. She treasured the enhanced hearing that came one morning and lasted 3 glorious hours before fading. Her wolf was waking up. Piece by piece. Gift by gift. When I shift, you will make me Luna. The grimoire warned her about the hunger, but nothing could have prepared her for its reality. When your wolf nears awakening, you will develop an appetite that your human body cannot satisfy. You will crave raw meat. You will crave to hunt. You will crave the taste of blood. Do not be afraid. This is not madness. This is your wolf asserting its needs. Syrah had been living on dried meat and foraged plants, carefully rationing her supplies. But on day 23, the hunger hit her like a physical blow. She needed meat. Fresh meat. Meat that still had life in it. Her human mind was horrified. Her wolf didn't care. She found herself tracking a rabbit without conscious thought, moving through the forest with a predator's focus. When she caught it bare hands in desperation, she killed it quickly, cleanly, and then she ate it raw. The taste should have disgusted her. Instead, it sang through her veins like fire, like power, like coming home. When she finished, blood on her hands and face, she realized she was crying. I'm becoming you, she whispered to the wolf she couldn't yet see. I'm becoming us. That night, the wolf appeared in her dreams again. This time, it didn't attack. It simply sat beside her, massive and patient, as if waiting for something. What do you need from me? Syrah asked. The wolf turned its golden eyes on her, and Syrah heard a voice that was hers but deeper, wilder, older. Acceptance. I accept you, Syrah said immediately. I want you. I need you. You fear me. It was true. Syrah did fear the wolf. Feared the power it represented. Feared the change it would bring. Feared that even if she shifted, she wouldn't be strong enough to survive it. Yes, she admitted. I fear you. But I fear staying human more. The wolf considered this. Then it stood, towering over her dream self, magnificent and terrible. Then let us begin the breaking. Syrah woke to agony. It started in her bones. Syrah was running her morning ritual, chasing the ghost feeling of her wolf, when pain exploded through her left leg. Not muscle pain, not exhaustion, bone-deep structural pain. She collapsed, screaming, clutching her leg as something inside it moved, shifted, tried to become something else. The grimoire had warned her. The first partial shifts will feel like dying. Breathe through them. Do not fight them. Fighting makes it worse. Syrah tried to breathe. Tried not to fight. But when her femur cracked and began to reshape itself, when her knee bent backward and reformed, when her foot elongated into something between human and paw, she screamed until her voice broke. It lasted 10 minutes. 10 minutes of breaking and remaking. And then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. Syrah lay gasping on the forest floor, her leg human again but throbbing with phantom pain. When she finally found the courage to look, she saw nothing wrong. No blood, no breaks, just her normal, human leg. But she had felt it change. She had felt her wolf body trying to emerge. Again, she whispered to the indifferent sky. Do it again. I can take it. The wolf, it seemed, was listening. Over the next 3 days, partial shifts came in waves. Her hands would become claws for 20 seconds. Her jaw would elongate and fill with fangs for a minute. Her spine would curve and reform, leaving her gasping on her hands and knees. Each shift was agony. Each shift lasted longer than the last. Each shift made her stronger. On day 32, 1 month exactly since she'd left Packlands, Syrah woke to find her entire right arm transformed. Black fur. Claws. Powerful muscles that belonged to a wolf 3 times her human size. She stared at it in wonder and terror, willing it to stay. It lasted 5 minutes before melting back to human flesh, but it had stayed. For 5 full minutes, she had held a piece of her wolf form. The grimoire's next instruction made her heart race. When you can hold a partial shift for 10 minutes, you are ready for the full transformation. Do not attempt it before then. Your body must be strong enough to survive the complete breaking. Wait, train, prepare, and when the time comes, do not hesitate. Hesitation kills omegas. Syrah trained harder. She pushed her partial shifts longer, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8. She ran until her lungs burned. She hunted with her claws when they came. She let her wolf nature bleed into her human actions, until she couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. On day 40, she held a partial shift both arms, fully transformed for 12 minutes. She was ready. While Sarah trained in the wilderness, something strange was happening in Packlands. Damon Blackthorne was having dreams. At first, they were vague. A sense of being watched. A flash of white in his peripheral vision. His wolf stirring restlessly for no apparent reason. Then they became more specific. He would dream of a white wolf with burning gold eyes, standing at the edge of his territory, watching him, waiting for something. The wolf never approached, never threatened, just watched. And somehow, that was worse. "You look like hell," his beta observed. One morning over territorial reports. Damon had, in fact, not slept more than 3 hours in the past week. The dreams woke him constantly, and when he did sleep, his wolf paced and whined, and generally made rest impossible. "I'm fine," Damon growled. "You're not fine. You've been snapping at everyone. You've rejected every Luna candidate presented to you, and last night you shifted in your sleep and destroyed your bedroom furniture." That last part was true. Damon had woken on the floor surrounded by splinters of what used to be his bed frame, his wolf snarling at shadows. "I said I'm fine," he repeated, putting alpha command into his voice. Thomas Ravencrest held up his hands in surrender. But his eyes said he didn't believe it for a second. The truth was, Damon didn't understand what was happening. His wolf, usually perfectly controlled, perfectly obedient, had become a restless, irritable creature that wanted something he couldn't identify. Some nights he swore he heard a voice. "When I shift, you will make me Luna." But that was impossible. The defective Omega was gone. She'd left Packlands. She was probably dead in the wilderness by now. Or she'd found some other pack to take her in. Either way, she was no longer his problem. So why couldn't he stop thinking about her? "Alpha," one of his scouts reported that afternoon. "We found tracks. Northwest Territory, near the wildlands border." "Rogues?" Damon asked, instantly alert. "No, sir. Just one set. Large. Unusual." The tracker said they looked like wolf prints, but bigger than any wolf in our pack. And they disappeared after a mile. Like the wolf just vanished. Damon's blood ran cold. "Show me." They rode out to the northwest border, and Damon shifted to examine the tracks himself. His wolf's senses were sharper, better able to analyze scent and sign. The prints were definitely wolf, definitely massive, and they carried a scent that made his wolf go absolutely insane. "Mate," his wolf howled. "Mate. Find. Mine." Damon shifted back to human form so fast he stumbled, his heart racing. No. That was impossible. The defective Omega couldn't be his mate. He would have known. He would have felt the bond the moment he saw her at the ceremony. Mate bonds didn't just appear out of nowhere weeks later. Except, they did, according to the old stories. When one wolf underwent a dramatic transformation, the bond could snap into place suddenly, violently, but the Nightshade girl couldn't shift. That was the entire point. That was why he'd made that stupid vow in the first place, because it was safe. Harmless. "Alpha?" His scout looked concerned. "Are you all right?" "Fine," Damon managed. "Just maintain patrols along this border. Report any unusual activity immediately." He rode back to Packlands with his wolf screaming at him to turn around, to follow the scent, to find what it insisted was their mate. "She can't shift," Damon said out loud, trying to convince himself. "She's not my mate. This is just stress, lack of sleep, nothing more." But that night, the dream came again. The white wolf with golden eyes. And this time, when Damon looked at it, he knew. He knew those eyes. He'd seen them before, gray and defiant in a small Omega's face, refusing to cry while he mocked her. "When I shift, you will make me Luna," the wolf seemed to say. Damon woke gasping, his body covered in cold sweat. "No," he whispered to his empty room. "Please, no." But his wolf knew the truth, even if he didn't want to accept it. The defective Omega was shifting. And when she did, he would be bound to her by vow and by mate bond both. He'd trapped himself more thoroughly than he'd ever trapped her. In her cave, Sarah consulted the grimoire one last time. "When you are ready for the full transformation, choose a Knight of Power." The full moon is traditional, but not required. What matters is that you feel certain. Hesitation kills omegas. Fear kills omegas. But certainty absolute, bone-deep certainty that you are ready to become who you truly are, that will carry you through the breaking. Sierra looked up at the night sky. The moon was 3/4 full. Close enough. Tomorrow night, she told her wolf. Tomorrow night we do this. Her wolf, for the first time, answered in words instead of feelings. Tomorrow night. We become whole. Sierra smiled. It was a fierce smile. A predator's smile. When I shift, you will make me Luna. Tomorrow, Damon Blackthorne would learn the cost of his vows. Tomorrow, everything would change. Chapter Fear. Parallel Suffering. Damon Blackthorne was losing his mind. And everyone could see it. The Alpha King, who'd always been controlled, calculated, and cold, was now snapping at his beta over minor infractions, pacing his office like a caged animal, and rejecting every Luna candidate with increasingly creative insults. She's too submissive, he'd snarled about the daughter of a visiting alpha. I need a Luna who can stand on her own, not one who fawns over every word I say. Then what about Kira Moonshadow? Thomas Ravencrest had suggested desperately. She's a warrior. She challenged 3 males to combat last week and won all 3 matches. Too aggressive. She'd undermine my authority within a month. Melissa then. She's smart, diplomatic, comes from good bloodlines. Too boring. I'd die of monotony before the bonding ceremony even finished. Thomas had thrown his hands up in frustration. Then what exactly are you looking for, Alpha? Damon didn't have an answer, because the truth he couldn't admit even to himself was that his wolf had already decided, and his wolf wanted the one female in the world he absolutely could not have. The dreams were getting worse. Every night, the white wolf appeared. Sometimes it just watched him. Sometimes it ran, and he found himself chasing it through forests that felt more real than his waking life. Sometimes it spoke in a voice that was feminine and fierce and achingly familiar. You made me a promise, Alpha King. When I shift, you will make me Luna. I'm coming back. Wait for me. He would wake tangled in sweat-soaked sheets, his wolf howling mournfully, his body aching with a need he didn't understand and couldn't satisfy. The worst part was the pull. It had started 3 weeks ago, a faint tugging sensation in his chest, like an invisible thread connecting him to something in the wilderness. At first, he'd ignored it, then he'd tried to suppress it. Now it was so strong that he found himself walking toward the northwest border, without conscious thought, his feet carrying him closer to whatever was out there. Whatever, whoever his wolf insisted was theirs. Damon. His father's voice stopped him mid-stride. Damon turned to find Sebastian Blackthorne standing in the doorway of his office, arms crossed, expression severe. The former Alpha King was 68 but still powerful, still commanding. He'd stepped down 5 years ago when Damon proved himself worthy, but he remained an influential voice in pack politics. Father, what's wrong with you? Sebastian asked bluntly. No preamble. No diplomacy. Just straight to the point. As always. Nothing is wrong. Don't lie to me, boy. I've seen what you look like when you're struggling. This isn't alpha stress. This isn't politics or territory disputes. This is personal. Sebastian moved closer, studying his son with the intensity of a wolf who'd lived through 6 decades of pack drama. Is it a female? Damon's jaw clenched. No. Liar. It's always a female. Did you reject your true mate? Is that why your wolf is losing its mind? I don't have a mate, Damon said through gritted teeth. Then why? Sebastian stopped. His eyes widened with sudden understanding. The vow. The Omega girl. Tell me you didn't. It was nothing. A joke that went poorly. She left Packlands. It's over. Over? Sebastian's voice dropped to a dangerous growl. Boy. Do you have any idea what you've done? Blood vows spoken during ceremonies, especially Luna ceremonies, are sacred. And if that Omega manages to shift, she can't shift. Damon's control finally snapped. She's defective. She's been defective for 19 years. The chances of her suddenly shifting now are growing higher every day if your wolf's behavior is any indication. Sebastian pinched the bridge of his nose. Damon, think, why is your wolf going insane? Why are you dreaming of wolves you've never seen? Why do you feel a pull toward the wilderness? I don't. Don't lie to me. The alpha command in Sebastian's voice made even Damon's wolf cringe. The mate bond is forming, which means she's undergoing a transformation, and when she completes it, you will be bound to her by vow and by biology both. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Damon sank into his chair, his hands shaking. That's not possible. It's not only possible, it's happening. I've seen this before. Your grandfather, my father, he felt the mate bond snap into place weeks after he first met your grandmother. She was undergoing her first shift. And the moment her wolf emerged, the bond activated. Sebastian sat across from his son. If this Omega is your mate, then she was always your mate. You just couldn't feel it until her wolf began to wake. She hates me, Damon said quietly. I humiliated her publicly. I mocked her for being defective. And now you're telling me she's my mate? The moon has a cruel sense of humor. I can't. Damon's voice cracked. Father, I can't be bound to someone who despises me. The pack would never respect a Luna who was forced into the position, and she would never. Then you should have thought of that before you made a vow you didn't intend to keep. Sebastian's voice was hard but not unkind. You did this, son. You chose cruelty over caution. Now you'll live with the consequences. Damon dropped his head into his hands. What do I do? You wait. You prepare. And when she returns, if she returns, you grovel. You apologize. You spend the rest of your life proving you're worthy of a mate who is strong enough to awaken her wolf through sheer force of will. Sebastian stood. And you pray she's merciful enough to give you a chance. After his father left, Damon sat alone in his office, feeling the invisible thread in his chest pull tighter, stronger. She was out there, his mate, the Omega he'd destroyed, and she was coming back. When I shift, you will make me Luna. I know, he whispered to the empty room. I know. And I'll deserve everything you do to me. His wolf whined in agreement. The day of her full transformation. Sarah woke before dawn. She didn't eat. The grimoire advised against it, said that a full stomach made the shift harder, more painful. Instead, she swam in the freezing stream until her skin was numb and her mind was clear. Today. It would happen today. She'd been preparing for 6 weeks, training her body, strengthening her mind, learning to hold partial shifts for up to 15 minutes. She was as ready as she would ever be. But the grimoire's final warning echoed in her thoughts. The full transformation will break you. Every bone will shatter and remake itself. Every organ will reshape. Every nerve will scream. You will want to die. You will beg for death. But if you surrender to the pain, your wolf will consume you, and you will lose your human mind forever. You must hold on to who you are even as you become something else. This is the Omega's burden. This is the Omega's power. Sarah dressed in loose clothing that would be easy to remove. She gathered firewood she'd need warmth after, assuming she survived. She laid out the grimoire, opened to the page with final instructions. When you are ready, remove your clothing. Stand beneath the sky. Call your wolf by name, and do not flinch when it answers. By name. Sarah had learned her wolf's name in a dream 2 nights ago. It had appeared to her not as a separate entity but as a memory ancient, deep, belonging to her bloodline. Elara, the same name as her great-great-grandmother, the last Omega in her line to awaken late. Elara, Sarah whispered, testing it on her tongue. The name felt right, felt like coming home. As the sun set and the 3/4 moon rose, Sarah walked to the clearing she'd chosen. A flat space surrounded by ancient trees, far enough from her cave that she wouldn't destroy her supplies when the transformation came. She removed her clothing carefully, folding each piece. The night air was cold against her bare skin, raising goosebumps. But she didn't shiver. She'd learned to master her body's automatic responses over the past 6 weeks. Standing naked beneath the moon, Sarah felt suddenly, terribly small. Just a girl. Just a human. Just a defective Omega who was about to attempt something that might kill her. No, she corrected herself. Not defective. Dormant. There's a difference. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and called to the wolf that had been waiting 19 years for this moment. Elara. I'm ready. Let's become whole. For a heartbeat, Nothing happened. Then, pain. Not the manageable pain of partial shifts. Not the breaking and remaking of individual limbs. This was total, absolute, all-consuming agony. Every bone in her body shattered simultaneously. Sierra's scream echoed through the wilderness as her skeleton began to reshape itself. Her spine elongated, vertebrae cracking and reforming. Her skull fractured, jaw pushing forward, teeth falling out to make room for fangs. Her arms broke at the shoulder, at the elbow, at the wrist. Her legs snapped at the hip, the knee, the ankle. Her ribcage collapsed and expanded, making room for lungs 3 times the size of her human ones. The grimoire had said it would hurt. The grimoire had lied. This wasn't hurt. This was destruction. This was dying while staying conscious. This was every fear she'd ever had about her body being broken, made real and immediate. Sarah wanted to stop, wanted to surrender, wanted to beg the wolf to take her mind so she didn't have to feel this anymore. But she'd come too far, suffered too much. She thought of Damon's mocking smile, his cruel words, the laughter of 300 wolves. When I shift, you will make me Luna. She held on to that vow like a lifeline, held on to her anger, held on to her sense of self even as her body became something else entirely. Her skin split. White fur erupted from every pore. Her hands and feet elongated, became paws with claws that dug into the earth. Her face pushed forward, became a muzzle filled with teeth designed for tearing. The worst part, the absolute worst part, was her senses exploding. Suddenly she could smell everything. Every creature within a mile. Every plant. Every change in the wind. It was overwhelming. A sensory assault that made her want to claw out her own nose. Her hearing amplified until every sound was deafening. The stream a mile away sounded like it was beside her. Owls hunting in the canopy above might as well have been screaming directly in her ears. Her vision sharpened and changed less color. But she could see in the darkness as clearly as day. Could see the heat signatures of small animals in their dens. Could see movement her human eyes would have missed entirely. It was too much. Too much sensation, too much change, too much. Breathe. The voice was her own but deeper. Wilder. Older. Alara, her wolf, speaking directly to her for the first time with perfect clarity. You're fighting it. Stop fighting. Accept. Become. Sarah, human Sarah. The girl who'd been mocked and broken wanted to fight. Wanted to maintain control. Wanted to prove she was strong enough to dominate this transformation. But that wasn't how Omega transformations worked. The grimoire had been clear. You do not conquer your wolf, you merge with it. You become something greater than either part alone. So Sarah stopped fighting. She let go of her human rigidity. Let go of her need to control. Let go of everything except the simple truth. She and Alara were the same. Not 2 beings in one body, but one being with 2 aspects. The pain didn't stop. But it changed. Became something she could move through instead of something that paralyzed her. Her transformation completed. Sarah opened her eyes, gold eyes now, burning with ancient power, and saw the world through her wolf's vision for the first time. She was massive. Bigger than any female wolf in the Blackthorn pack. Her fur was pure white, almost luminescent in the moonlight. Her paws left imprints in the earth that would make tracking wolves think twice. And the power, oh, the power singing through her veins was intoxicating. We are magnificent, Alara purred in her mind. Sarah had to agree. She tested her new body carefully, took a step, then another. The movements felt foreign and natural at once. She broke into a run and discovered she was faster than she'd ever been as a human. Stronger, deadlier. She howled, a sound of pure triumph that echoed across the mountains. And in Packlands, 70 miles away, Alpha King Damon Blackthorn jerked awake, his heart racing, his wolf howling in response to a call only he could hear. Sarah spent a week learning to shift. The first transformation had taken hours and nearly killed her. The second took 90 minutes and left her gasping. By the 7th, she could shift in under 20 minutes with manageable pain. The grimoire had warned her. Ancient Omegas can shift at will, but the skill takes practice. Your wolf and your human form must learn to coexist, to flow into each other. Give it time. Give it patience. Sarah gave it obsession. She shifted every day, sometimes multiple times, pushing through the pain and exhaustion until her body learned the pattern. Until human and wolf became interchangeable, and with each shift, she felt him more strongly. The bond. The mate bond. She hadn't understood it at first, this strange pulling sensation in her chest. This awareness of someone else's emotions bleeding into her own. But the grimoire explained. When an omega awakens, dormant bonds activate. If your true mate exists, you will feel him as he feels you. The bond cannot be severed except by death. Choose carefully whether to accept or reject it. Sarah didn't need to guess who her mate was. She could feel his wolf's essence even at this distance. Strong, dominant, unmistakably alpha, Damon Blackthorne. The male who'd mocked her. The male who'd humiliated her publicly. The male who'd made a vow he never intended to keep. He was her mate. The moon's sense of humor was, indeed, cruel. I could reject him, Sarah said aloud one evening, her wolf form lounging beside the fire. I could shift, show him what I've become, claim another male just to spite him. We could, Alara agreed. But you don't want to, Sarah snarled. Knowing her wolf was right. She didn't want to reject him. Not really. She wanted something much more complicated. She wanted him to see her. To truly see her. To realize what he'd dismissed so casually. To understand that the defective omega he'd mocked was more powerful than half his pack combined. She wanted justice, recognition, vindication, and maybe she wanted to see if the male beneath the cruelty was worth keeping. When the full moon comes, Sarah decided, I'll go back. I'll hold him to his vow. And then we'll see what kind of alpha king he really is. And if he fails us, then I'll take his title and his pack and leave him with nothing, just like he tried to do to me. Alara's laughter was dark and satisfied. I knew I liked our human half. The full moon rose on the 8th week exactly. Sarah stood at the border of Blackthorn Pack lands, her white wolf form nearly glowing in the moonlight, and howled. It was a challenge. A declaration. An announcement. I'm here. I'm whole. I'm coming to collect what I'm owed. In the Alpha's den, Damon Blackthorne was halfway through a meeting with his council when the howl reached him. Every wolf in the room froze. What was that? Elder Rowan asked. His face pale. Damon knew. His wolf knew. The bond that had been forming for weeks suddenly snapped into place with crystal clarity, and he could feel her. His mate. His omega. The wolf he'd mocked and broken and dismissed as worthless. She had shifted. She was magnificent. And she was coming. The Luna ceremony, Damon heard himself say, his voice hollow. We need to prepare the Luna ceremony. She's coming to claim her vow. Thomas Ravencrest stood abruptly. Damon, you can't possibly. You were going to bond with Melissa tomorrow night. Cancel it. Damon's amber eyes were glowing now, his wolf so close to the surface that fur was rippling along his arms. Cancel everything. The omega has shifted. Pack law is clear. But, I said cancel it. The alpha command echoed through the chamber, making every wolf present submit. Elder Rowan was shaking his head. You made a blood vow, Alpha. You mocked her in front of the pack. And now you expect her to simply— I expect nothing. Damon interrupted, his voice suddenly quiet. Defeated. I expect her to destroy me. And I'll deserve it. But pack law says I must honor the vow. So prepare the ceremony. He stood and walked out of the council chamber, following the pull of the bond toward the northwest border, toward his mate, toward his reckoning, toward the omega who'd just proven that she was more than he'd ever imagined. And all he could think was, she's going to hate me. She's going to make me suffer. And I can't even blame her. His wolf whined in agreement. In the forest, Sarah shifted back to human form, dressed in the clean clothes she'd carried with her, and smiled. Ready, Alara. Oh, we're ready. Let's go make an alpha king regret every word he's ever spoken. Sarah's smile was sharp as knives. My thoughts exactly. Tomorrow night was the full moon. Tomorrow night was traditionally when Luna ceremonies were held. Tomorrow night, the entire Blackthorn pack would gather to witness something they never thought they'd see. The defective omega returned, shifted, powerful, and ready to collect her debt. Chapter 5. The Return. Sierra spent her final day in the wilderness saying goodbye. She walked through the forest she'd suffered in, touched the trees she'd punched until her knuckles bled, stood in the stream where she'd learned that pain was just information. This place had broken her and remade her. It deserved acknowledgement. "Thank you," she whispered to the indifferent wilderness. "You gave me what the pack never could. You gave me myself." Alara stirred in her mind, content and strong. "We're ready to go home." "That's not home anymore," Sarah corrected. "But it's where we need to be." She packed the grimoire carefully. It was coming with her. Elder Rowan had given it to her, but it belonged to her bloodline now. To all the future Omegas who might need its wisdom. As the sun began to set, Sierra shifted one last time in privacy. The transformation took 12 minutes, now still painful but manageable. Her white wolf emerged like moonlight taking form, and she ran. She ran through the territories she'd learned, past the cave that had sheltered her, along the paths her paws had worn into the earth. She ran until her wolf's joy and her human determination merged into single-minded purpose. Tomorrow, she would return. Tomorrow, Damon Blackthorn would see what he'd created with his cruelty. Tomorrow, everything would change. The ceremonial grounds were packed. Every member of the Blackthorn pack had gathered over 300 wolves, all dressed in their finest ceremonial leathers, all buzzing with anticipation and confusion. The Alpha King had cancelled his bonding to Melissa Ravencrest at the last minute. No explanation, just a terse command that tonight's full moon ceremony would proceed as originally scheduled, but with a different candidate. Rumors spread like wildfire. "I heard he found his true mate." Someone said it's a visiting Alpha's daughter. "No, I heard it's one of the warriors who proved herself in battle." Nobody guessed the truth. How could they? Damon stood at the center of the ceremonial circle, dressed in the traditional Alpha's ceremonial garb, black leather that bore his family's crest. His hair pulled back to show the markings on his neck that designated him as pack leader. He looked magnificent and miserable. His beta stood beside him, concern written across his face. "Damon, are you certain about this? You don't even know if she's actually coming." "She's coming." Damon's voice was flat. "I can feel her. She's close." The mate bond had grown stronger throughout the day, until Damon could sense her emotions as clearly as his own. Determination, anticipation, and underneath it all, a anger so cold and focused it made his wolf whimper. She was coming for blood. Or at least for justice. He deserved both. "What will you say to her?" Thomas asked quietly. "The truth." Damon's amber eyes scanned the tree line. "That I was cruel, that I was wrong, that I'll spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of a mate I don't deserve. And if she rejects you, then she rejects me. But I'll still honor the vow. Pack law is clear. If she's shifted, she's my Luna. Whether she accepts me as her mate is her choice." Elder Rowan approached, his ancient face grave. "Alpha, the ceremony should begin. But perhaps you should prepare the pack, tell them who they're about to witness." "No," Damon's voice was firm. "Let them see. Let them be as shocked as I was. Let them understand what they dismissed as worthless." The elder nodded slowly. "Very well. But remember what you said to her." The pack said to her through their silence. Many wolves here laughed that night. Many wolves here whispered cruel things. They will feel her judgment too. "Good," Damon said quietly. "We all deserve it." The ceremony began as the full moon crested the mountains. Elder Rowan's voice rang out across the gathered wolves. "Tonight, we witness the bonding of our Alpha to his chosen Luna. Tonight, pack law is fulfilled, and blood vows are honored." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Blood vows? What blood vow?" 8 weeks ago, the elder continued, his voice carrying weight. "Our Alpha made a vow before witnesses. A vow spoken in jest. Perhaps. But a vow nonetheless. He promised that if a certain Omega could shift into her wolf, he would make her his Luna." The murmurs grew louder, memories stirred. A few wolves glanced at each other, beginning to understand. "That Omega has shifted," Elder Rowan declared. "And tonight, she comes to claim what she is owed." The crowd erupted in shocked whispers. "Impossible. The defective Omega? Sarah Nightshade? She couldn't shift." Everyone knew that. Silence. Damon's alpha command cut through the noise. When the pack quieted, he spoke, his voice carrying clearly. 8 weeks ago, I humiliated Sarah Nightshade in front of you all. I mocked her for being unable to shift. I made a vow I thought was meaningless because I believed she was defective. He paused, letting that sink in, letting them remember their own laughter. I was wrong. She was never defective. She was dormant. And when her wolf finally emerged, Damon's voice dropped. But every wolf heard him. When her wolf finally emerged, it became clear that she is more than I ever imagined, more than any of us imagined. But where is she? Someone called out. If she shifted, why isn't she here? As if in answer, a howl split the night. It wasn't like any howl the pack had heard before. It was deeper, more powerful, carrying notes of ancient authority that made even the strongest warriors' wolves submit instinctively. Every head turned toward the tree line, and Sarah emerged. She came in wolf form first, wanting them to see Alara before they saw her human face. Sarah's white wolf stepped from the shadows into the moonlight, and the entire pack gasped. She was enormous, easily the size of the largest male wolves, possibly larger. Her fur was pure white, almost luminescent, making her look like she was carved from moonlight itself. Her eyes burned gold, ancient and powerful, carrying the weight of bloodlines that predated the Blackthorn pack by centuries. She moved with predatory grace, each step deliberate, commanding. As she walked through the crowd, wolves instinctively moved aside, creating a path. Even the strongest alphas in the pack felt the urge to lower their heads in respect. This was no ordinary wolf. This was power incarnate. Damon's wolf was going absolutely insane. Mate, perfect, mine. It wanted to shift, wanted to submit, wanted to claim her all at once. His human mind fought for control, barely winning. When Sarah reached the center of the ceremonial circle, she stopped directly in front of Damon. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other, alpha wolf to omega wolf, mate to mate. Then Sarah shifted. The transformation was smooth, practiced, taking less than a minute. Her white fur receded, her body reshaped itself, and where the massive wolf had stood, a woman now stood. Sarah Nightshade was naked, shifting destroyed clothing, but she stood with no shame, no attempt to cover herself. Her body had changed during her weeks in the wilderness. She was leaner, more muscular, carrying herself like the warrior she'd become. Her dark hair fell past her shoulders, her gray eyes gold eyes now, permanently changed by her wolf fixed on Damon with unwavering intensity. Someone in the crowd gasped. A few wolves looked away, uncomfortable, but most stared in shock. This was not the small, ashamed Omega they remembered. This was something else entirely. "Hello, Alpha King," Sarah said, her voice clear and cold as winter water. "I believe you made me a promise." Damon couldn't speak. His wolf was howling, his mate bond was screaming, and his human mind was trying to process the fact that the magnificent creature before him was the same girl he'd mocked 8 weeks ago. His voice failed. He tried again. "Sarah, you said," she interrupted, taking a step closer, "that if I shifted into my wolf, you would make me Luna." "Another step. I'm here to collect." Elder Rowan cleared his throat. "The Alpha did make that vow, before witnesses, under the full moon. It is binding by pack law." Melissa Ravencrest, the Luna candidate who'd been rejected the night before, pushed forward from the crowd. "This is ridiculous. She's just an Omega. Alpha Damon. You can't seriously." Sarah's head turned toward Melissa, and the look in her gold eyes made the other woman's words die in her throat. "Just an Omega?" Sarah repeated softly. "You're right. I am an Omega. But do you know what that word meant? Before your kind twisted it into an insult." "Silence. Omega means the last, the final, the one who comes after all others have passed. Ancient Omegas didn't shift as children because we didn't need to." Sarah's voice carried across the ceremonial grounds, commanding attention. "We shifted when we chose to. When we had accumulated enough knowledge, enough strength, enough will. Our transformations weren't accidents of puberty, they were conscious awakenings." She turned back to Damon, and the intensity of her gaze made him want to submit and fight all at once. "So yes, I'm an Omega. I'm the last of an ancient bloodline. And you made a vow to me before witnesses." She took another step, close enough now that he could smell her wild and powerful and mate. Shift. Alpha King. Let your wolf confirm what you already know. It was a command. From an omega to an alpha. It should have been impossible, but Damon's wolf was already clawing to get out, desperate to show their mate that they recognized her, that they submitted to her power. Sarah, Damon tried one more time, his voice rough. Before I shift, I need to say I was wrong. What I did to you was cruel and unforgivable. I don't deserve. Shift. Now. Her eyes flashed pure gold. We can discuss what you deserve after you fulfill the first part of your vow. Damon shifted. His transformation was faster than hers. He'd been shifting for years. His body knew the pattern. His black wolf emerged, massive and powerful, the embodiment of alpha dominance. But the moment he was fully wolf, something unexpected happened. His wolf proud, dominant. Alpha took one look at Sarah's white wolf form and immediately submitted. It dropped to its belly, throat exposed, whining like a pup seeking approval from its mother. The pack gasped. Some wolves cried out in shock. Melissa looked like she might faint. An alpha wolf, submitting to an omega. It was unheard of. Impossible. And yet there it was, happening before 300 witnesses. Sarah shifted back to human form, standing over Damon's prone wolf body. When she spoke, her voice carried absolute authority. Your wolf knows what you refuse to see. I am your mate. I am your equal. And you will make me your Luna. Damon shifted back, kneeling at her feet, his amber eyes wide with wonder and shame and desperate hope. Yes, he breathed. Yes, you're my mate. You're my equal. You're my Luna. He looked up at her, this magnificent creature he'd nearly destroyed with his cruelty. I'll spend my life proving I'm worthy of you. Good, Sarah said coolly. Because I'll hold you to that too. Elder Rowan approached, reading the ancient rites with shaking hands. This was unprecedented. An Omega Luna, a blood vow fulfilled, a mate bond revealed before the entire pack. Does the Alpha accept this female as his Luna, his mate, his equal in all things? I do, Damon said, his voice steady despite the chaos in his heart. Does the Omega accept the Alpha as her mate, her partner, her equal in all things? Sarah paused. For a long, terrible moment she said nothing. The entire pack held its breath. Then, I accept him as my mate by the moon's choice and by pack law. Whether I accept him as my partner. She looked down at Damon, still kneeling before her. That, he will have to earn. It wasn't a rejection, but it wasn't acceptance either. It was a challenge. Damon nodded, understanding. I'll earn it. Every day. For the rest of my life if that's what it takes. Then let the bonding commence, Elder Rowan declared. The ceremony that followed was ancient and binding. Words spoken in the old tongue. Blood mixed in the ceremonial bowl. The packs witnessed acceptance of their new Luna, but when it came time for the claiming bite, the moment when a mated pair would mark each other, sealing their bond permanently, Sarah stepped back. No, she said clearly. The pack murmured. Damon froze. You have me as your Luna by law, Sarah continued, her voice carrying. You have me as your mate by the moon's choice. But the claiming bite is intimate, personal, and I don't give intimacy to males who mocked me. She met Damon's eyes. You'll have to earn that too. She turned to face the pack, magnificent in her nakedness, unashamed of her power. I am Sarah Nightshade, Luna of the Blackthorn pack. Some of you laughed when the Alpha mocked me. Some of you whispered that I was defective, worthless, broken. You were wrong. Her gold eyes scanned the crowd, and many wolves looked away in shame. I am here to lead beside your Alpha, to protect this pack, to honor the ancient ways that you've forgotten, and to show you that Omega doesn't mean weak, it means powerful in ways you've never imagined. The silence that followed was absolute. Then, slowly, one wolf began to bow, then another, then another. Within moments, the entire pack, 300 wolves, had lowered themselves in submission to their new Luna. All except one. Damon remained standing, his eyes locked on Sarah's face, his expression a mixture of awe and agony. I know you hate me, he said quietly, but the ceremonial circle carried his voice. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I swear to you, on my life and my title and everything I am, I will earn your trust. I will prove that I'm worthy of the Luna who shifted not because she had to, but because she chose to show the world her power. Sarah studied him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was sharp and fierce and promised pain. Good, she said. Because I'm going to make you work for every scrap of affection, Alpha King. You wanted me as a joke. Now you have me as a reality. Let's see if you can handle what you created. She walked past him, toward the Alpha's den that was now technically hers as well, her head high and her spine straight. The pack parted for her like water, none daring to meet her eyes. Damon stood in the center of the ceremonial circle, legally bound to a mate who hated him, and felt something unexpected bloom in his chest alongside the shame. Hope. She hadn't rejected him. She'd set terms. She'd given him a chance to prove himself. It was more than he deserved. More than he'd dared to dream. His wolf was content for the first time in weeks. Mate acknowledged us. Mate gave us chance. Must prove worthy. I will, Damon whispered. I swear I will. Thomas Ravencrest approached, looking shell-shocked. Well, that was unprecedented. That's my mate, Damon said. And despite everything, the humiliation, the public submission, the conditional acceptance, his voice carried pride. That's my Luna. She's terrifying. Yes, Damon agreed. She is. And I've never been more attracted to anyone in my life. Thomas laughed despite himself. You're insane. Probably. Damon finally moved, heading toward the den where his mate waited. But she's mine, and I'm hers, and I'll spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of her. Behind them, the pack slowly dispersed, buzzing with shock and excitement and fear. The defective Omega had returned, shifted, powerful, and she was their Luna now. The Blackthorn pack would never be the same. Sarah stood in the center of what was now technically her living space, examining it with critical eyes. The Alpha's den was impressive, spacious quarters carved into the mountainside, with separate rooms for sleeping, bathing, and working. Luxury by pack standards. But it smelled like him. Pine and smoke and alpha dominance. It made her wolf restless. She heard him enter and turned slowly. Damon stood in the doorway, holding a bundle of fabric. I brought you clothes, I thought. You might want. To cover myself? Sarah took the offered garments, soft leather pants, and a tunic that would fit her. Thank you. She dressed without modesty, aware of his eyes on her but not caring. Let him look. Let him see what he'd dismissed as worthless. When she was clothed, she faced him properly. We need to establish rules, she said. Rules, Damon repeated, looking like he'd expected this. I'm your Luna by law, your mate by the moon's choice, but I won't share your bed until you've earned it. I won't accept your claiming bite until you've proven yourself. And I won't pretend to feel anything I don't. Understood. His voice was quiet. What else? You'll give me space when I need it. You'll answer my questions honestly. You'll show me respect publicly and privately, and... She stepped closer, making him meet her eyes. You'll never, ever mock someone for being different again. Whether it's shifting late or being weak or not fitting pack standards. You'll lead with kindness, not cruelty. Or I'll challenge you for your title. That last part made his eyes widen. You could do that. Ancient Omegas have that right. If the Alpha fails in his duties. I know. Sarah's smile was sharp. I've been reading. A lot. So don't test me, Damon Blackthorn. I came back to collect a debt, but I'll stay to fix what's broken in this pack. With or without you. For a moment, Damon just stared at her. Then, slowly, he smiled. It was the first genuine smile she'd seen from him, not mocking, not cruel, just real. I really am the luckiest bastard alive, aren't I? Why would you say that? Because my mate is the strongest, most magnificent creature I've ever met, and she's giving me a chance to prove I can be worthy of her. His amber eyes softened. Even though I don't deserve it. Sarah felt something crack in her chest. Something that had been frozen solid since the night he mocked her. No, she agreed quietly. You don't deserve it. But my wolf chose you, and I trust my wolf more than I trust my hurt. She turned away, moving toward the separate bedroom she'd already claimed. Don't make me regret this, Alpha King. I won't, Damon promised. I swear on my life, Sarah, I won't. She paused in the doorway, looking back at him one last time. We'll see. Then she closed the door, leaving him alone with the weight of everything he'd done and everything he now had to do to earn back what he'd nearly destroyed. Damon sank into a chair, his heart racing, his wolf content for the first time in weeks. His mate was here. Magnificent. Powerful. And she'd given him a chance. He wouldn't waste it. Chapter 6. Living with the Enemy. Living with Sarah Nightshade was torture of the most exquisite kind. Damon had faced rogue attacks, territory disputes, challenges to his authority. He'd weathered political machinations, loss, and the brutal realities of pack leadership. None of it compared to sharing living space with a mate who couldn't decide whether to kill him or kiss him. The first morning, Damon woke to find Sarah already up, dressed in training leathers, heading out the door. "Where are you going?" he asked, his voice still rough with sleep. "Training with the warriors. I need to establish my position in the pack hierarchy." She didn't even look at him. "Some of the males are already whispering that an Omega Luna is weak. You could just let me handle." "I don't need you to handle anything for me, Alpha King." Now she did look at him, and her gold eyes were cold. "I earned my wolf through blood and pain. I'll earn my pack's respect the same way." She left before he could respond. When Damon arrived at the training grounds an hour later, summoned by an alarmed beta, he found Sarah in the center of a combat circle, facing off against 3 of his strongest warriors simultaneously. She was destroying them. Her wolf training had been brutal, but it had made her fast, efficient, and utterly merciless. She moved like water, flowing around attacks, countering with precision that left her opponents gasping. Kyle Stonefang, the wolf who'd first mocked her at the ceremony, charged from her blind spot. Sarah spun, caught his arm, and used his own momentum to flip him onto his back. Before he could recover, she had her foot on his throat. "Submit," she commanded. Kyle's wolf wanted to fight, but her wolf, older, stronger, carrying ancient authority, made submission inevitable. "I submit," he gasped. Sarah removed her foot and offered him her hand. When he took it, surprised, she pulled him up and spoke loud enough for the gathered crowd to hear. "I don't expect you to like me. I don't expect you to understand how an Omega can be Luna. But I expect your respect, and I'll earn it one fight at a time if I have to." She turned to face the crowd. "Anyone else want to test me?" Silence. Then one of the senior warriors, a grizzled male named Victor who'd served under Damon's father, stepped forward. "Luna, I would be honored to spar with you. Not as a challenge, as a welcome." Sarah studied him, then nodded. Accepted. Their sparring match was different from the others. Victor wasn't trying to dominate or humiliate. He was testing her skills, acknowledging her strength, treating her like the warrior she'd become. When they finished, both winded, both grinning, Victor bowed formally. "The Blackthorn Pack is honored to have a Luna who can fight beside us, not just behind us." Other wolves murmured agreement. Sarah had won them. Not through Damon's authority, not through the mate bond, through her own strength. Damon felt pride and shame war in his chest. Pride that his mate was magnificent. Shame that she had to prove herself because of what he'd done to her. When she finally noticed him watching, her expression shuddered. The fierce warrior became the cold Luna, and she walked past him without a word. That night, they ate dinner in silence. Damon had tried to prepare something, a peace offering, but his cooking skills were limited. The meal was barely edible. Sarah ate it anyway, not complaining, but not thanking him either. "You fought well today," he offered. "I know. The pack is starting to respect you. They should." "I'm stronger than half of them." Damon tried again. "Sarah, I know you're angry." "Angry?" She set down her fork with deliberate care. "Damon, I'm not angry. Angry is what I was the night you mocked me. What I am now is calculating. I'm deciding whether you're worth the effort it'll take to forgive you." The words hit like a physical blow. "What can I do?" he asked quietly. "Tell me what I can do to make this right." "You can't make it right. You can only make it better. Slowly, over time." She met his eyes. "You humiliated me publicly. You made me believe I was worthless. You laughed while I died inside. Those aren't things that get fixed with apologies and good intentions. Then what do they get fixed with? Proof." She stood, gathering her dishes. "Proof that you've changed, That you see people really see them instead of just dismissing them. That you lead with wisdom instead of cruelty. She moved toward the kitchen. Show me a different Alpha, Damon. Then maybe I'll show you a different Luna. She left him sitting alone at the table, and Damon finally understood the magnitude of what he had to do. He didn't just need to win her forgiveness. He needed to become someone worthy of it. The pack watched their Alpha and Luna with fascination. It was impossible not to notice the tension, the way Sierra moved through pack lands with confidence while barely acknowledging Damon's presence, the way Damon's eyes followed her constantly, hungry and hopeful and heartbroken all at once. He's got it bad, one of the younger wolves whispered. She's making him suffer, another agreed. Good, he deserves it. The older wolves remembered what Damon had done. Many of them felt uncomfortable about it now, watching Sierra prove herself daily. She wasn't defective, she never had been, and their Alpha had been cruel. But they also saw something else. Damon was changing. He started asking questions instead of issuing commands. When a young Omega, a 14-year-old boy, who hadn't shifted yet, came to him in tears, afraid he was broken like Sarah had been, Damon didn't dismiss him. Instead, he brought the boy to Sierra. Luna, Damon said formally, aware of the boy's parents watching nervously. This is Camden. He's concerned about his shift. I thought. Perhaps you could speak with him? Sarah looked at Damon, surprised. This was the first time he'd sought her help publicly, the first time he'd acknowledged her expertise. She turned to Camden, her expression softening. How old are you? 14, Luna. His voice shook. My sister shifted at 12. My brother at 11. But I can't feel my wolf at all. Come with me, Sarah said gently. She led him to a quiet corner of the pack house, away from anxious parents and curious wolves. Damon followed at a respectful distance, watching. Camden, Sarah said, kneeling so she was eye level with the boy. I didn't shift until I was 19. Do you know why? Because you were defective? He said it hesitantly, clearly afraid of offending her. No. Because my bloodline is ancient, and ancient wolves shift differently. But also, she paused, choosing her words carefully. Because I was afraid. I was so afraid of being different, of not meeting expectations, that I couldn't hear my wolf through all that fear. Camden's eyes widened. You were afraid? Terrified. Every day, the fear became a wall between me and my wolf. She took his hands. Is there something you're afraid of? The boy's face crumpled. I'm afraid that if I shift, my wolf will be small. Weak. That I'll be Omega-like. He caught himself, horrified. I'm sorry, Luna. I didn't mean. It's okay. Sarah's voice was gentle. You're afraid of being Omega, because this pack taught you that Omega means worthless. But you've seen me fight. You've seen my wolf. Does it look weak to you? No, Luna. You're amazing. I am Omega. And I am strong. Those things aren't contradictory. She squeezed his hands. Your wolf will come when you're ready, when you can accept whatever form it takes. Don't rush it. Don't fear it. Just be patient with yourself. Tears streamed down Camden's face. Thank you, Luna. After the boy left looking lighter, more hopeful, Sarah turned to find Damon watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. What? She asked, defensive. You're going to be an incredible Luna, he said quietly. Not because you're powerful, but because you understand what it's like to hurt, to feel less than, and you use that understanding to help others. Sarah didn't know how to respond to that, so she just nodded and walked away. But something in her chest had cracked. Just a little. Sarah woke screaming. She was in her separate bedroom, had been for 3 weeks now, but the nightmare had been so vivid, so real, that she couldn't remember where she was. The ceremony, the laughter, his voice. Still can't shift? How? Tragic. But in the nightmare she never shifted. She stayed broken, stayed worthless, stayed alone. Her door burst open. Damon stood there in sleep pants, his hair disheveled, his eyes wild with concern. Sarah, what happened? Are you hurt? I'm fine. Her voice shook, betraying the lie. Just a nightmare. Go back to bed. He should have left. She'd been clear about space, about boundaries, Instead, he entered slowly, carefully, like approaching a spooked animal. Can I sit? She should have said no. But the nightmare was still too close, and she didn't want to be alone. Fine. Damon sat on the edge of her bed, not touching her, just present. Do you want to talk about it? No. They sat in silence for a long moment. Then Sarah heard herself speak. I dream about that night. The ceremony. Sometimes I shift and come back powerful. Sometimes I don't shift at all and stay broken forever. Tonight. Her voice caught. Tonight you were right. Tonight I was defective. You were never defective, Damon said fiercely. I was blind. I was cruel. I was wrong about everything that mattered. Words are easy, Damon. I know. He turned to face her, and in the dim light, his expression was raw. So let me show you. Every day, let me prove that I see you now, that I understand what I almost destroyed. Sarah met his eyes, and for the first time since she'd returned, she let him see her vulnerability. I don't know if I can trust you. Then don't. Not yet. Just let me earn it. One day at a time. She nodded slowly. Damon stood to leave, but Sarah's voice stopped him. Damon? Yes? Could you stay? Just until I fall asleep again. I don't. She hated admitting weakness. I don't want to be alone with the nightmares. His expression transformed hope and tenderness, and something deeper. Of course. Where do you want me? The chair. By the window. Just. Where I can hear you breathing. Damon settled into the chair, and Sarah lay back down. The sound of his steady breathing, the presence of her mate nearby, soothed something in her wolf that had been restless since her return. She fell asleep quickly. Damon stayed awake all night, watching over her, protecting her from nightmares he'd caused. When dawn came and Sarah woke, she found him still there, his head tilted against the chair, asleep but clearly uncomfortable. She should have woken him, sent him to his own bed. Instead, she got up quietly, fetched a blanket, and draped it over him. It was a small kindness, but it was the first one she'd shown him since her return. Progress. The attack came without warning. Sarah was in the pack library. She'd been spending her afternoons there, reading everything about pack history and Omega bloodlines when the alarm howl split the air. Enemy wolves. Southeast border, all warriors to arms. She ran. By the time she reached the conflict, the battle was already brutal. A rival pack, the Silverclaw pack, territorial neighbors who'd been testing Blackthorn borders for months, had launched a coordinated attack. 20 enemy wolves against 30 Blackthorn defenders. The odds were manageable, except Sarah spotted Damon immediately. He was in wolf form, fighting 3 opponents at once. And he was magnificent, powerful, dominant, everything an alpha should be. He was also distracted, even in the chaos of battle. She could feel his attention split between fighting and worrying about her. The mate bond worked both ways. He felt her presence, knew she was near danger, and it was making him sloppy. A massive gray wolf, the Silverclaw beta, caught Damon's blind spot, lunged for his throat. Sarah shifted mid-run. Her white wolf emerged in seconds. She'd been practicing, making the transformation faster every time, and she hit the gray wolf like a avalanche of snow and fury. They tumbled, snarling and snapping. The Silverclaw beta was strong, experienced, deadly. Sarah was stronger. She used techniques she'd learned in the wilderness, fighting styles that had nothing to do with pack training and everything to do with survival. She was vicious, efficient, going for vulnerable spots without hesitation. When she finally had the beta pinned, her jaws around his throat, she felt Damon's wolf beside her. He was panting, bleeding from several wounds, but his eyes were locked on her with something like awe. The Silverclaw beta submitted. Sarah released him, and the enemy wolf scrambled back toward his pack. Within minutes, the Silverclaw pack retreated, carrying their wounded, acknowledging defeat. The Blackthorn pack howled victory. Sarah shifted back to human form, breathing hard, covered in blood, some hers, most not. Damon shifted too, and before she could process what was happening, he had her in his arms. You could have been killed, he said roughly, his hands running over her body, checking for serious injuries. You should have stayed back, let the warriors. I am a warrior, Sarah interrupted, And you were about to have your throat ripped out. I could have handled it. You were distracted, worried about me. It made you sloppy. She pushed at his chest, but he didn't let go. Damon, you can't protect me and fight effectively. You have to trust that I can protect myself. I know you can. But you're my mate. Every instinct I have says to keep you safe. Then your instincts are going to get one of us killed. She finally managed to push him back, creating space. I'm not some delicate Luna who hides while males fight. I'm a warrior who happens to be Luna. Get used to it. Something in her words, or maybe in the fierce way she said them, made Damon smile. It was a real smile, full of pride and resignation and something warmer. You saved my life, he said softly. Yes, I did. And you'd better remember it. She turned to walk toward the pack healers. She had a few gashes that needed attention but paused. Also, thank you. For what? For not ordering me to stay safe. For letting me fight. She glanced back at him. For trusting me, even though it went against your instincts. Then she was gone, leaving Damon standing in the aftermath of battle, bleeding and exhausted and more in love than he'd ever been in his life. That night, Sierra's wounds were worse than she'd admitted. The Silverclaw Beta had gotten in a few good hits, deep gashes along her ribs, a bite on her shoulder that had torn muscle. Her wolf healing would handle it. But slowly. And it hurt. She was trying to bandage herself, too proud to ask for help, when Damon knocked on her bedroom door. Come in, she called, too tired to argue. He entered with a healer's kit. Let me help. I can. Sierra, please, let me do this one thing. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the pain. Maybe it was the way he asked instead of commanded. But she nodded. Damon worked in silence, his hands gentle as he cleaned her wounds. Applied the healing salve that would speed her recovery, wrapped bandages with practiced efficiency. You're good at this, Sarah observed. I've patched up a lot of warriors over the years, learned from the pack healers. His fingers traced the bandage on her shoulder with careful tenderness. I hate that you're hurt. I hate that you were almost killed. They looked at each other, and something shifted. Some wall between them cracked. I can't lose you, Damon said quietly. I know I don't have the right to say that. I know I don't have your trust yet. But the thought of you dying, of you being hurt, it's worse than anything I've ever felt. That's the mate bond talking, Sarah said, but her voice was softer than usual. No, it's me talking. The mate bond makes me feel what you feel, but this fear, this desperate need to keep you safe, that's all me. He finished with her bandages and sat back. You were right earlier. I was distracted in the fight. I'll work on that. I'll trust you to protect yourself. But I can't. His voice cracked. I can't pretend I'm not terrified of losing you. Sarah's wolf was purring, responding to his vulnerability, his honesty, his pain. Her human side was more cautious. But even she couldn't deny what she was feeling. I don't want to lose you either, she admitted. Even though part of me thinks I should. Even though you hurt me. My wolf. She paused. My wolf wants you. And I'm tired of fighting her. Hope bloomed in Damon's eyes. Does that mean? It means I'm considering not hating you anymore. She managed a small smile. Don't ruin it by pushing too fast. I won't, I swear. He stood to leave, but her hand caught his wrist. Damon? Would you stay again? Like last time. Just until I fall asleep. The wounds hurt less when you're near. It was the mate bond, their proximity eased physical pain, one of the benefits of being bonded wolves. But it was also more than that. It was trust, fragile, tentative trust. Always, Damon said. Anytime you need me, I'll stay. He settled into the chair by the window, and Sierra fell asleep to the sound of his breathing, feeling safer than she had in months. When she woke in the middle of the night, pain throbbing through her wounds, she found him still there, still watching over her, still keeping his promise. Damon? She whispered. I'm here. Do you need more medicine? No, I need. She hesitated, then decided to trust her wolf. I need you closer. The bond, it works better with proximity. She saw him understand. saw the hope and caution war in his expression. Are you sure? Just to help with the pain? Nothing else. But maybe on top of the blankets. On the other side of the bed, Damon moved carefully, as if approaching something precious and breakable. He lay down on top of the blankets, maintaining the barrier she'd set, but close enough that the mate bond hummed with satisfaction. The pain in Sarah's wounds immediately eased. Her wolf settled, content with their mate's nearness. Thank you, she murmured, already drifting toward sleep. Thank you for trusting me this much, Damon replied. I know it's not easy. No, Sarah agreed. But maybe it's getting easier. They fell asleep like that, separated by blankets and emotional walls, but closer than they'd been since the night of her return. Progress. Chapter 7. The Softening. The morning after the battle, Sarah woke to find Damon gone from her room, but breakfast waiting on her bedside table. Not the barely edible meals he'd attempted before. This was clearly prepared by the pack kitchens, fresh bread, honey, berries, and a note in his handwriting. Your mother sent this. She heard you were injured. The whole pack is talking about how you saved their alpha. They're proud, I'm proud. Rest today. D. Sarah touched the note, something warm unfurling in her chest. He was trying. Really trying. Over the next few days she noticed other changes. Damon had always been a fair leader, but now he was actively kind. He remembered names of lower-ranking wolves. He asked about families. He listened more than he spoke. And he watched her. Constantly. Not with possession or control, but with fascination, as if he was trying to memorize every detail. You're staring again, Sarah said one afternoon. They were in his office, technically their office now, reviewing territory reports. Sorry. I'll stop. I didn't say I minded. I just said you're doing it. Damon looked up, surprised. You don't mind? I've been watching you too. She admitted it easily, no longer seeing the point in hiding, trying to figure out who you really are beneath the Alpha King persona. And? What have you figured out? Sarah considered. You're more uncertain than you let people see. You doubt yourself constantly. You care deeply about the pack, but you're afraid of failing them. And, she met his eyes, you're genuinely trying to be better. Not just for me. For everyone. That's the most you've said to me in weeks that wasn't business or an insult. Don't get used to it, Sarah said, but she was smiling slightly. Too late. I'm already addicted to that smile. The words hung between them, too honest, too raw. Sarah should have deflected, should have rebuilt the walls. Instead, she heard herself say, I'm thinking about forgiving you. Damon went very still. Thinking about it? Not there yet. But, thinking about it. She searched for the right word. Present, consistent, honest. Those things matter. What would it take? His voice was careful. To get from thinking about it to actually forgiving me. More time, more proof. And Sarah paused. I need to know that you understand why what you did was so devastating. Not just that it was cruel, but why it hurt the way it did. Damon set down his pen, giving her his full attention. Tell me. Help me understand. Sarah took a breath. This was vulnerability. This was dangerous. But he'd been vulnerable with her. Maybe it was time to reciprocate. I was 19 years old. Every single person in my family had shifted by 13. I'd spent 6 years, Damon, wondering what was wrong with me. Wondering if I was broken. If I was defective. If I was worth anything at all. Her voice remained steady, but her hands trembled slightly. I built my entire identity around being smart because I couldn't be strong. I memorized every book because I couldn't hunt. I tried to be useful in every other way because I couldn't be a real wolf. She met his eyes. And then you, the Alpha King, the most powerful wolf in the pack, you looked at me and confirmed every fear I'd ever had. You told me, in front of everyone, that I was exactly what I was terrified of being. Worthless. Damon's face had gone pale. Sarah, I'm not done. Her voice was firm. You didn't just mock me. You made a vow you thought was meaningless. You laughed at the idea that I could ever be worthy of being Luna. And everyone laughed with you. In that moment, I wasn't just humiliated. I was erased. Every bit of worth I'd tried to build for myself evaporated because the Alpha King had declared me not worth the breath it took to mock me properly. Silence. Damon's hands were shaking. I didn't understand. I thought it was just, I was showing off for the pack. Being clever. I didn't think about how it would feel from your side. That's the problem. You didn't think. You didn't see me as a person with feelings and fears and worth. You saw me as a punchline. Sarah's voice softened slightly. That's what I need you to understand. It wasn't just about the words. It was about being seen as nothing by someone who was supposed to protect everyone in his pack. Even the broken ones. Especially the broken ones, Damon corrected quietly. An alpha's job is to protect the vulnerable. And I weaponized your vulnerability instead. Yes. He stood, moved to the window, his back to her. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. I'm sorry. I've said it before, but I don't think I truly understood what I was apologizing for until now. I'm sorry I made you feel worthless. I'm sorry I laughed. I'm sorry I didn't really see you until you forced me to. And I'm sorry that my cruelty lives in your nightmares. He turned back to face her, and there were tears on his face. Sarah had never seen the Alpha King cry. I can't take it back. I can't undo it. But I swear to you, Sarah, I see you now. I see your strength, your intelligence, your courage. I see how much you suffered to become who you are. And I see that you're worth 1,000 of me. Sarah felt her own eyes burning. Don't say that. You're worth something too. You're just learning to see it. You're defending me? Damon almost smiled through his tears. I'm trying to be fair. You hurt me. But you're also trying to heal that hurt. Those things can both be true. She stood, moved closer to him. Not touching, but close enough to feel his warmth. I'm not ready to forgive you completely. But I'm ready to stop hating you. Is that enough for now? It's more than I deserve. Damon's voice was thick. It's everything. They stood there, inches apart, the mate bond humming between them, with approval and warmth and hope. I should get back to work, Sarah said finally. Of course. Damon gestured vaguely at his tear-stained face. Give me a moment to look like an alpha again. Sarah surprised herself by reaching up and wiping one of his tears with her thumb. The touch was gentle. Intimate. You look more like an alpha right now than you ever have, she said softly. Because you're being real. Vulnerable. Human. Then she left before she could do something stupid like kiss him. Behind her, Damon stood frozen, his skin burning where she'd touched him, hope blooming in his chest like spring after a long winter. Come with me. Sarah appeared at Damon's office door just after sunset, dressed in clothes she could easily shed for shifting. Come where? Damon looked up from his paperwork, surprised. The forest. I want to run. And she hesitated, then committed. I want you to run with me. As wolves. Together. This was huge. She'd avoided running with him since her return, keeping their wolves carefully separated. This was an offering. An invitation. Are you sure? Damon asked carefully. No. But I'm going to do it anyway. Are you coming or not? They ran to the edge of pack lands in human form, to a clearing Sarah had chosen specifically, private, safe, perfect for what she had in mind. Rules, Sarah said as they both stripped down, preparing to shift. We run. We don't hunt together, that's too intimate. We don't. She blushed slightly. We don't do anything that wolves do when they're mating. This is just running. Being wolves together, nothing more. Understood. Damon's eyes held hers. Thank you for this. I know it's not easy. It's terrifying, Sarah admitted. My wolf wants to. She cut herself off. Wants to what? Wants to do all the things I just said we wouldn't do. She wants to claim you. Accept your claim. Run until we're too tired to think and then. She shook her head. She doesn't understand why I'm holding back. My wolf doesn't understand either, Damon said quietly. He's been patient, but he's suffering. Every day, being near you but not being able to touch you, claim you, show you how much we bay. He stopped. Sorry. That's not fair to put on you. No. It's honest. And I appreciate honesty. Sarah took a breath. Let's shift. Before I lose my nerve. They shifted together. Sierra's white wolf emerged first, smooth, practiced, beautiful. Damon's black wolf followed seconds later, massive, powerful, magnificent. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then Sierra's wolf took off running, and Damon's wolf chased. Not hunting, not pursuing, just running together through the forest, weaving between trees, leaping over fallen logs, racing across clearings silvered by moonlight. It was pure joy. Sierra's wolf had been running alone for weeks in the wilderness, running with her mate, with Damon's powerful presence beside her. Matching her stride for stride felt like coming home. Their wolves were perfectly synchronized. When she turned, he turned. When he slowed, she slowed. They moved like water, like wind, like two parts of a whole. No words were exchanged. Wolves didn't speak human language, but emotions flowed through the mate bond. His awe at her speed, her admiration for his power, their shared joy in simply being together. When they finally stopped, panting, at a stream deep in packed territory, Sierra's wolf made a decision. She approached Damon's wolf slowly, deliberately, and pressed her head against his chest, a gesture of affection, of trust, of acceptance. Damon's wolf went very still, as if afraid to breathe and break the moment. Then carefully he pressed back, his head rubbing against hers, a low rumble of contentment vibrating through his chest. They stood like that for long minutes, just touching, just being close, their wolves finally at peace. When they shifted back to human form, naked and standing in the stream, Sierra was smiling. "That was perfect," Damon finished. "That was perfect." "My wolf likes your wolf," Sarah said, as if this was a revelation. "My wolf worships yours." They dressed in comfortable silence and walked back to the den side by side, not touching, but close enough that their hands occasionally brushed. At her bedroom door, Sarah paused. "Damon?" "Yes. I don't want to sleep alone tonight." "Not," she clarified quickly. "Not like that. But the way we did after the battle. You close but separate. Is that? Would you?" "Yes." His answer was immediate. "Absolutely yes." So they lay together on top of the blankets, separated by fabric and agreements, but closer than they'd been since she'd returned. "This is nice," Sarah murmured, already half asleep. "It's everything," Damon replied. And for the first time since her return, they both slept through the night without nightmares. The Blackthorn pack had been watching their Alpha and Luna with intense interest since Sarah's return. The Cold War between them had been entertaining in a devastating way. Everyone knew the Alpha deserved to suffer, and everyone admired the Luna for making him work for her forgiveness. But now things were changing. The Luna smiled at the Alpha during pack meetings. The Alpha brought the Luna flowers from the forest. They ran together at night. Everyone heard their wolves howling in harmony. "They're falling in love," Lydia Nightshade said to her mate, as they watched Sarah and Damon working together in the training grounds, teaching young wolves combat techniques. "Falling in love?" Robert shook his head. "No, they were always in love. They're just finally admitting it." "Our daughter deserves happiness," Lydia said softly. "After everything she's been through. Do you think he'll give it to her? Look at him." Robert nodded toward Damon, who was watching Sarah demonstrate a defensive move with the expression of a male who'd found religion. "That boy would die for her, would kill for her, would do anything she asked. She's not just his Luna. She's his salvation." Lydia smiled. "Good. She should be." The young wolves being trained noticed too. Camden, the 14-year-old who still hadn't shifted, approached Sarah during a break. "Luna, can I ask you something?" "Of course. When did you know that you didn't hate the Alpha anymore?" Sarah considered the question carefully. I think I stopped hating him the first time I saw him cry. The first time I realized he was as broken by what he did as I was. Hate requires distance. Once I saw him as a person flawed, struggling, genuinely remorseful, I couldn't maintain the hate. "But you're still careful with him," Camden observed. "You don't hold his hand. You don't kiss him. My parents are always touching." "Your parents have been mated for 20 years. Damon and I have been us for 7 weeks. Trust takes time to build, especially when it's been shattered." She smiled at the boy. "But it is building, slowly, and that's okay." "Do you love him?" The The question caught Sarah off guard. She glanced across the training ground to where Damon was laughing with Victor, his guard completely down, his smile genuine. "I'm starting to," she admitted. "And that terrifies me more than anything." That night, lying beside each other on the bed, still on top of the blankets, still maintaining boundaries, Damon asked the question he'd been afraid to voice. "Sarah, what are we doing here?" "What do you mean?" "This." He gestured between them. "We're mates. We're bonded by law and by the moon. But we're living like roommates, who occasionally comfort each other." "I'm not complaining," he added quickly. "I'll take whatever you're willing to give. But I need to know. Is this temporary? Are we building toward something? Or is this as close as you'll ever let me get?" Sarah was quiet for a long time. Then, "I don't know. That's honest, at least. I'm scared, Damon. I'm scared of letting myself love you and then having you hurt me again. I'm scared of giving you my trust and my body, and my claiming bite, and then discovering you haven't really changed. I'm scared." Her voice broke. "I'm scared that I'm falling for the male you're pretending to be, not the male you actually are." Damon rolled onto his side to face her, though he kept his hands to himself. "I'm not pretending. This is who I am, or who I'm trying to be. The male I was at that ceremony, cruel, thoughtless, arrogant, that was the pretend version. That was me performing for the pack. Then show me more of this version. The real version. The uncertain, emotional, vulnerable version. What do you want to know?" "Everything." Sarah turned to face him too. "Tell me about your childhood, your fears, your dreams. Show me who Damon Blackthorne is when he's not being the alpha king." So he did. He told her about losing his mother when he was 12. She died defending the pack from rogues. He told her about the pressure of being groomed for alpha from birth, never allowed to be weak or uncertain or afraid. He told her about the loneliness of leadership, how every decision carried the weight of 300 lives. "I built walls," Damon admitted, "made myself cold, calculated, because that's what alphas are supposed to be, and somewhere along the way, I forgot how to be anything else." "What changed?" Sarah asked softly. You came back powerful and fierce and absolutely certain of your worth, and you made me see how small I'd been, how I'd mistaken cruelty for strength, how I'd been performing instead of leading." He reached out slowly, giving her time to refuse, and took her hand. She didn't pull away. "I'm not perfect, Sarah. I'm still learning. I'm still going to make mistakes. But I swear to you, I will never be deliberately cruel again. I will never mock someone for being different. And I will never, ever take you for granted." "I believe you," Sarah said, and realized it was true. "You do?" "Yes. Because you've proven it. Over and over. Through actions. Not just words." She squeezed his hand. "I'm ready, Damon." His heart skipped. Ready for what? To try. Really try. To see if we can be more than just mates by law. To see if we can be partners. Lovers. Everything that mates are supposed to be. "Are you sure?" "No. But I'm doing it anyway. Because my wolf is sure. And I trust her more than I trust my fear." Damon brought her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles gently. "Then we'll go slow. As slow as you need. I'll follow your lead." "Actually," Sarah said, her voice taking on a different tone, something deeper, more certain. "I don't think I want slow anymore." She closed the distance between them, still on top of the blankets, but pressed against his side. "I think I want to stop being afraid. Stop holding back. Stop punishing us both for something you've already paid for." "Sarah." She kissed him. It was soft at first, tentative, as if she was still testing whether this was safe. Damon remained perfectly still, letting her control everything, not pushing. But then Sarah deepened the kiss, and something broke open between them. 7 weeks of tension, of denial, of desperate wanting finally finding release. Damon's hands came up to cup her face, gentle but possessive. Sarah's fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer. The mate bond sang with approval, flooding them both with warmth and rightness and home. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sarah whispered, "Take me under the blankets." "Are you?" "I'm sure. I want to be close to you. Really close. No more barriers. They moved under the blankets together, and Sarah curled into Damon's chest, his arms around her, their bodies finally allowed to touch without restriction. "This doesn't mean," Sarah started. "I know. This is just holding, just closeness. Nothing more until you're ready. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this chance, for letting me hold you, for," his voice cracked, "for not giving up on me." "You didn't give up on earning me back," Sarah pointed out. "It seemed only fair to meet you halfway." They fell asleep tangled together, the mate bond humming with contentment, both wolves finally at peace. In his dreams, Damon saw a future. Sarah smiling at him without reservation, carrying his children, ruling the pack beside him as his equal in all things. In her dreams, Sarah saw the same future. And for the first time, she didn't wake up afraid. Chapter 8. The Claiming. Sarah woke wrapped in Damon's arms, their bodies fitted together like puzzle pieces that had finally found their match. For a moment, she just breathed. Felt his heart beat against her back, felt the mate bond humming with contentment. Felt, for the first time since that terrible ceremony 8 weeks ago, completely safe. "You're thinking too loud," Damon murmured against her hair, still half asleep. "How do you know I'm thinking? Your breathing changes, your body tenses. It's like I can feel your thoughts through the bond." He pressed a kiss to her shoulder, casual, intimate, perfect. "Want to share?" Sarah turned in his arms to face him. In the morning light, Damon looked softer, younger, the harsh lines of the Alpha King smoothed into something more human. "I'm thinking," she said carefully, "that I'm tired of waiting." His amber eyes sharpened, suddenly very awake. Waiting for what? For the perfect moment, for absolute certainty, for some magical sign that says I'm ready to stop holding back. She traced his jawline with her finger. "I think I've been using caution as an excuse, a shield. Because as long as I'm holding back, I'm safe. I can't be hurt again." "You can still be hurt," Damon said quietly. "I could still fail you. I could still—" "Shh." She pressed her finger to his lips. "You could, but you won't. I know that now. Not because you're perfect, but because you're trying. Every single day, you're trying to be better. And that's all I can ask for." "What are you saying, Sarah?" She took a breath, feeling her wolf rise to the surface, certain and strong. "I'm saying I want the claiming bite. I want to accept you fully as my mate. I want to stop living in fear, and start living in whatever this is between us." "Love," Damon supplied softly. "This is love, at least on my end." "Love," Sarah agreed, testing the word. "Yes, I think it might be." Damon's expression transformed hope and joy and disbelief all at once. "Are you sure? Because once we exchange claiming bites, it's permanent. There's no undoing it. I'm sure. Or sure enough. Which is the same thing when you're dealing with matters of the heart." She smiled. "Unless you've changed your mind?" "Never. Not in 1,000 years. Not if you gave me the choice between claiming you and breathing, I'd choose you every time. That's impractical. You need to breathe. Then I'd figure out how to do both." He cupped her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. "When? How? Do you want ceremony? Privacy? The pack as witnesses? Tonight. Just us. No witnesses. I want this to be ours, Damon. Not the pack's, not anyone else's. Just ours. Tonight," he breathed. "Perfect." The day passed in a blur of normalcy and anticipation. Sarah trained with the warriors in the morning. She'd established a daily routine of combat practice, both to maintain her skills and to reinforce her position as a Luna who could fight. Kyle Stonefang, the wolf who'd first mocked her, was now one of her most dedicated students. "Luna," he said after their sparring session, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." That night, at the ceremony, I was the one who pointed you out, made you visible when you wanted to hide. His face was tight with shame. "I've wanted to apologize for weeks, but I didn't know how." Sarah studied him. Kyle was young, barely 22, and had clearly been parroting the pack's prejudices without thinking about the real person behind them. "Why did you do it?" she asked. "Honestly, I wanted attention. Wanted the alpha to notice me, to laugh at my joke. I didn't think about how it would feel for you. I was thoughtless. Cruel without even meaning to be cruel. That's often how cruelty works, Sarah said. It's casual, thoughtless. We don't consider the impact because we're not the ones feeling it. She paused. I accept your apology, Kyle, but more importantly, I want you to learn from it. Next time you see someone struggling, someone different, someone the pack has decided is less than, I want you to stand up for them instead of pointing them out for mockery. I will, Luna. I swear it. After training, Sarah helped her mother in the pack kitchens, something she'd started doing weekly, reconnecting with family and with the domestic life she'd missed during her wilderness months. You're glowing, Lydia observed, kneading bread dough. Something's different today. Is it that obvious? To your mother? Yes. Lydia smiled. You've decided something. Something important. Sarah couldn't help but smile back. Tonight we're completing the bond. The claiming bites. Her mother's hands stilled. Then she was pulling Sarah into a flower-dusted hug, tears streaming down her face. Oh, baby. I'm so happy for you. He's a good male. I know what he did was terrible, but I've watched him these past weeks. He loves you desperately. I know. And I love him too. Finally, completely. Does he know you're planning this tonight? Yes. We decided together this morning. Lydia pulled back, studying her daughter's face. You're sure? There's no pressure. I'm sure, Mom. For the first time since I came back, I'm absolutely certain. He's earned this. He's earned me. And I'm ready to stop punishing us both. Damon spent the afternoon preparing their den. He cleared his office, their shared workspace of all pack business. He prepared a meal himself, with help from the kitchens, because his cooking skills were still limited but improving. He gathered soft blankets and pillows, creating a nest-like space in the main room where they could be comfortable. He was nervous. Terrified, actually. You look like you're preparing for battle, Thomas observed, finding his alpha arranging furniture for the fourth time. I feel like I am. Damon adjusted a pillow. Tonight, Sarah and I are exchanging claiming bites. Thomas's eyes widened. Damon. That's wonderful. Why do you look so worried? Because I have to do this right. I have to make sure she knows. He stopped, frustrated. I've hurt her so badly. This claiming is everything. It's permanent. And I need her to feel safe, cherished, loved, not pressured or… Damon. Thomas gripped his friend's shoulder. Stop. You've been proving yourself for 8 weeks. She's choosing this. Choosing you. Trust that she knows what she wants. But what if You won't. You've changed. The entire pack has seen it. More importantly, she's seen it. Thomas smiled. Go be with your mate. Stop overthinking. Just love her. The rest will follow. After Thomas left, Damon stood in the center of their den and took a breath. Tonight, everything changed. Tonight, Sarah would be his in every way that mattered. He just had to make sure he was worthy of the gift she was giving him. Sarah arrived at sunset, her hair damp from bathing, dressed in simple leather pants and a soft tunic. She looked nervous and determined and beautiful. Hi, she said, almost shyly. Hi. Damon couldn't stop staring. You look terrified? Perfect. You look perfect. She smiled, some of her nervousness easing. So do you. And this. She gestured at the prepared space, the food, the care he'd taken. This is wonderful. They ate together, talking about mundane things, pack business, training schedules. Camden finally feeling stirrings of his wolf. Safe topics. Comfortable. But underneath, the anticipation built. The mate bond hummed with awareness, knowing what was coming. Finally, plates cleared and excuses exhausted, they faced each other. I'm nervous, Sarah admitted. So am I. Why? You've done this before. Had partners. Lovers. She'd learned this about him during their late-night conversations. Never a mate. Never someone who actually mattered. Never. He cupped her face. Never you. Sarah leaned into his touch. Tell me what happens. The claiming bite. What does it feel like? Pain at first. Sharp pain, then, Damon searched for words, then euphoria. The bond completes. You feel everything your mate feels. Their pleasure becomes yours. Their emotions bleed into yours. You become two souls sharing one space. That sounds overwhelming. It is. But in the best way. His thumb traced her lower lip. Are you sure, Sarah? We can wait. We can. She kissed him, cutting off his worried rambling. When she pulled back, her gold eyes were certain. I'm sure. Show me. Teach me. Make me yours. Damon kissed her again, deeper this time, his hands sliding into her hair. Sarah responded with equal hunger. 8 weeks of denial finally given permission to surface. They moved together toward the nest of blankets and pillows Damon had prepared. Sarah's hands found the hem of his shirt, pulled it up and over his head. He helped her remove her tunic, his breath catching at the sight of her. You're beautiful, he whispered. I should have told you that night. At the ceremony. Should have seen. Shh. Sarah pressed her finger to his lips again. That night is over. This is our night. Don't bring ghosts into it. She was right. He kissed her again, letting the past fade, focusing only on now. Their remaining clothes came off slowly, reverently. When they were both naked, Sarah pushed Damon down onto the blankets and straddled him, taking control. I need. She paused, vulnerable. I need to lead this, to choose every moment, to know I'm in control. Whatever you need, Damon said immediately. This is yours to command. I'm yours to command. Sarah smiled, fierce and tender at once. Then she kissed her way down his throat, his chest, marking him with lips and tongue and the occasional scrape of teeth. Damon's hands found her hips, steadying her, but he didn't guide, didn't push, just held on and let her explore. You're shaking, Sarah observed. I'm trying very hard to maintain control. To let you lead. To not. He groaned, as she did something particularly devastating with her tongue. You're not making it easy. Good. She rose up, positioning herself above him. I want you desperate. I want you shaking. I want you to feel a fraction of what you've made me feel these past weeks. She sank down onto him, taking him inside her body, and they both gasped at the sensation. Sarah, don't move, just feel. Let me. She began to move, setting a rhythm that drove them both toward madness. Damon's grip on her hips tightened, his wolf howling beneath his skin, demanding to claim, to mark, to possess. But he held back. Let her lead. Let her take what she needed. When Sarah threw her head back, lost in sensation, Damon thought he'd never seen anything more magnificent. This was his mate. Powerful. Certain. Choosing him. Damon. Her voice was strained. I'm close. Let go, he urged. I've got you. Let go. She did, crying out his name, her body clenching around his. The sensation pushed Damon over the edge too, and they came together, pleasure crashing through them both like a wave. In the aftermath, breathing hard, still connected, Sarah leaned down and whispered against his ear. Now the claiming bite. Are you ready? Yes. God, yes. The claiming bite was intimate beyond anything Damon had imagined. Sarah shifted first just her teeth, letting her fangs emerge. She kissed his throat, found the perfect spot where his neck met his shoulder, and bit down. The pain was sharp and immediate. But underneath it was something else. A connection snapping into place. The mate bond completing. Becoming unbreakable. Damon felt everything Sarah felt. Her love, her lingering fear, her determination, her hope for their future. All of it flooded through the bond, overwhelming and perfect. When she released him, blood on her lips, her eyes were glowing pure gold. Your turn, she whispered, tilting her head to expose her throat. Claim me, Damon. Make me yours. Damon's fangs emerged. He pulled Sarah closer, positioned his mouth over the mirror spot on her neck, and bit down. Her blood filled his mouth hot and sweet and mate. The bond completed from his side. And suddenly he could feel everything. Her pleasure, her joy, her absolute certainty that this was right. And beneath it all, her love. Overwhelming. Unconditional love that she'd been too afraid to show until now. When he released her, they stared at each other, both breathing hard, both marked, both forever changed. "I love you," Sarah said, the words finally free. "I love you so much it terrifies me. But I'm not running anymore. I'm staying. I'm yours." "I love you," Damon replied, his voice rough with emotion. "I've loved you since the moment you came back with fire in your eyes and demanded I keep my vow. Maybe even before that. Maybe from the moment you looked at me at that ceremony and refused to cry." They kissed again, tasting each other's blood, sealing the bond. The rest of the night passed in a blur of lovemaking and whispered confessions and wolves running together in perfect harmony. By dawn, they were exhausted, marked, and completely, irrevocably bonded. Sarah woke to find Damon watching her, his expression soft with wonder. "What?" she asked, her voice rough from screaming his name half the night. "You're really mine. This isn't a dream. Not a dream. Very real. Very permanent." She traced the claiming bite on his shoulder already healed to a scar that would mark him as claimed for life. "Do you regret it? Do you regret it?" "Never. Not for a single second." "You?" "No." She curled closer. "I thought I'd regret it. Thought I'd wake up and panic. But I don't. I just feel complete." "The bond," Damon explained. "It does that. Makes everything feel right." "It's not just the bond." Sarah met his eyes. "It's you. You've proven yourself. Earned this. Earned me. And I'm done holding back." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm ready to be your Luna in every way. Your mate. Your partner. Your equal." She kissed him softly. "It means I'm ready to let you love me without fear, and to love you back without reservation." Damon's eyes filled with tears. "I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway." She smiled. "Besides, you're going to spend the rest of your life making up for that ceremony. I'm planning to make you work very hard." "Good. I want to work for you. Want to prove every day that I'm worthy. Then let's start today." Sarah sat up, gloriously naked and unconcerned. "We have a pack to lead, young wolves to train, an Omega named Camden who still needs guidance, and," she grinned, "we have a public ceremony to plan." "Public ceremony?" "The pack witnessed our Luna bonding, but they didn't witness our claiming. Some of them are probably wondering if it's real, if we've really accepted each other." She pulled him up. "So we'll show them. We'll host a celebration. Show off our claiming marks. Make it official in their eyes too." "You want to show off that you chose me?" "I want to show off that we chose each other. That the defective Omega and the cruel Alpha King found a way to become something better together." Damon pulled her into his arms, breathing in her scent now mixed with his, marking her as claimed. "Have I mentioned that you're the best thing that ever happened to me?" "Once or twice. But feel free to mention it again. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. The best thing that ever will happen to me. And I'll spend every day of our lives together proving I know how lucky I am." Sarah kissed him, deep and thorough and full of promise. "Good," she said when they finally broke apart. "Because I'm holding you to that. Just like I held you to your original vow. When I shift, you will make me Luna," Damon recited. "And you did," Sarah finished. "Turns out, you're pretty good at keeping your word." Eventually, they laughed together, two mates who'd found their way through cruelty to love, through hate to understanding, through breaking to healing. And as they dressed to face the pack, to show the world that they were claimed, bonded, and completely in love, Sarah whispered the vow one more time. "When I shift, you will make me Luna." Damon added his own vow. "And when you claimed me, you made me worthy of being your alpha." Together, they walked out to face their future. Epilogue. 1 year later, the ceremonial grounds were transformed. Where Sarah had once stood in shame, now stood decorative arches woven with autumn flowers. Where the pack had once laughed at her humiliation, now gathered 300 wolves dressed in celebration, waiting to honor their Luna. 1 year. 1 full year since Sarah had returned with her white wolf and claimed what was owed. "Nervous?" Damon asked, adjusting his ceremonial leathers. They stood in the Alpha's preparation chamber, getting ready for the anniversary celebration the pack had insisted on hosting. "Should I be?" Sarah countered, checking her own appearance in the mirror. She wore traditional Luna leathers, white and silver, matching her wolf with her claiming mark displayed proudly on her shoulder. You're about to address 300 wolves who once dismissed you as worthless. I'd be nervous. I was nervous a year ago. Now? She turned to face him, her gold eyes bright. Now I know exactly who I am, and they know it too. Damon pulled her close, breathing in her scent, mate and home, and everything that mattered. Have I mentioned how much I love you? Twice this morning. But I never get tired of hearing it. A knock on the door interrupted them. Elder Rowan entered, looking pleased. Luna, Alpha, the pack is assembled. They're ready. As they walked toward the ceremonial grounds, Sierra's hand found Damon's. He squeezed gently. Whatever happens, he murmured. I'm proud of you. Of us. Of what we've built. Whatever happens. Sierra raised an eyebrow. Damon, we've literally planned this entire ceremony. Nothing unexpected is going to happen. Famous last words. Elder Rowan's voice carried across the assembled pack. 1 year ago, we witnessed something unprecedented. Our Luna returned to us, transformed, powerful, magnificent. She came to collect a debt, and in doing so, she changed our pack forever. Sarah stood in the center of the ceremonial circle, Damon beside her, and looked out at faces that had once mocked her. Many now showed respect, admiration, even love. Luna Sarah has proven herself in countless ways, the elder continued. She fights beside our warriors, she trains our young, she leads with wisdom and strength. But perhaps most importantly, he smiled. She showed us that being different doesn't mean being less. It means being something the pack has never seen before. Applause rippled through the crowd. Today we honor her. We honor the bond she shares with our Alpha, and we honor the new traditions she's helping us build. The ceremony proceeded with speeches from pack members. Victor, the senior warrior, spoke about Sarah's combat skills and her patience and training. Her mother spoke about her daughter's strength and resilience. Even Kyle Stonefang, the wolf who'd first mocked her, stood to speak. Luna Sarah, Kyle said, his voice carrying clearly. I was the one who pointed you out that night. Made you visible when you wanted to hide. I've apologized privately, but I want to apologize publicly too. I was thoughtless, cruel, and I'm sorry. Sierra nodded, acknowledging him. Apology accepted, Kyle. Again. You can stop apologizing now. Laughter from the pack, warm, inclusive laughter. Nothing like the mockery of a year ago. Then came the moment Sarah had been planning for weeks. If I may, she said, stepping forward. I have something I'd like to share with the pack. The crowd quieted, curious. A year ago, I stood in this circle and heard the Alpha King make a vow he thought was meaningless. If you shift into your wolf, I'll make you Luna. He laughed. You laughed. And I. She paused. I made my own vow, that when I shifted, I would come back and collect. Not just the title, not just the position, but recognition, respect. My rightful place. She looked at Damon, her expression softening. What I didn't expect was to fall in love. To find a mate who would work every single day to prove he was worthy of a second chance. To build something real with the male who once hurt me most. Damon's eyes were suspiciously bright. So today, Sierra continued, I want to make a new vow, not one born from anger or revenge, but one born from hope. She turned to face the young wolves gathered at the front, Camden and others who had struggled with their shifts, who had felt less than, who had needed someone to show them a different path. I vow that no wolf in this pack will ever be called defective again. That late bloomers will be celebrated, not shamed. That omegas will be recognized for the ancient power they carry, not dismissed as weak. Her voice strengthened. I vow to protect the different ones. The struggling ones. The ones who don't fit the mold, because those are often the ones who become extraordinary. The pack erupted in howls of approval. Camden pushed forward from the crowd, tears streaming down his face. Luna, I have to tell you something. What is it, Camden? The 14-year-old boy took a shaky breath. Last night, I shifted. For the first time, my wolf finally came. Sarah's face broke into the brightest smile. Camden, that's wonderful. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted to wait Wanted to show everyone during the ceremony that you were right. That being late doesn't mean being defective. He shifted smooth, practiced, as if he'd been doing it for years. His wolf was small, omega-sized, but his eyes burned with the same ancient gold that Sarah's did. The pack gasped. Another ancient bloodline. Elder Rowan breathed. The moon has blessed us twice. Camden shifted back, grinning. I'm Omega, like you, Luna. And I'm not ashamed. Sarah pulled the boy into a hug, her own eyes wet. Never be ashamed. You're perfect exactly as you are. After Camden's announcement, after the celebration and the feast, after the pack had howled their approval and their joy, Sarah and Damon finally had a moment alone. They stood at the edge of the ceremonial grounds, watching the pack celebrate under the moonlight. You knew, Damon accused gently. About Camden. You knew he was going to shift. I suspected. He came to me last week, said he felt something stirring. I told him to be patient, to trust it. She leaned against her mate. I'm glad he waited to show everyone. It was perfect. You're building something incredible, Damon said. A pack where being different is celebrated. Where omegas are powerful. We're building it, Sarah corrected. Together. You've changed as much as I have this year. Because you changed me. Made me see what I was blind to before. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Sarah spoke again. Her voice carrying a new note. Nervous. Excited. Uncertain. Damon, I have something to tell you. He turned to face her fully, immediately attentive. What is it? Are you okay? I'm fine. Better than fine. She took his hand and placed it on her stomach. I'm pregnant. The world stopped. Damon stared at her, his hand on her flat belly, his mind trying to process what she'd just said. There's a pup. Yes. I'm about 6 weeks along. I wanted to be sure before I told you. She bit her lip, suddenly uncertain. Are you happy? I know we haven't talked about children yet. And if it's too soon. Damon kissed her. Deep, thorough, joyful. When he pulled back, there were tears streaming down his face. Happy? Sarah? I'm beyond happy. He dropped to his knees, pressing his forehead against her stomach. We're going to have a pup. You're giving me a family. A real family. We're giving each other a family, Sarah corrected, running her fingers through his hair. You, me, and whoever this little one turns out to be. I hope they have your eyes, your strength, your courage. I hope they have your heart, your capacity for change, your determination to be better. Damon stood, pulling her close. I love you. So much. I never thought. After what I did, I never thought I'd deserve this. A mate who loves me. A pup on the way. A pack that's thriving. It's more than I ever dreamed. You earned it, Sarah said firmly. Every bit of it. Through hard work and honest change and refusing to give up even when I made it difficult. You should have made it difficult. I deserved worse than I got. Maybe. But that's the past. This. She placed her hand over his on her stomach. This is our future. And it's going to be beautiful. The next morning, Sarah found herself back in the clearing where she'd first fully shifted. It had been over a year. But she felt drawn to return. To remember. Damon had followed, he always did, her protective mate, but he kept his distance, letting her have this moment. Sarah stood where she'd stood that night. Where she'd broken and reformed. Where she'd become Alara, become whole. Become more than she'd ever imagined. I was so scared, she said aloud. That night, I thought I might die. Thought the transformation would kill me or drive me mad. But I did it anyway because the alternative, staying broken, staying defective, was worse than death. Damon moved closer. You were brave. You've always been brave. I was desperate. She turned to face him. But desperation turned into determination. And determination turned into power. And power turned into... She gestured between them. This? Us. Everything we've built. Do you ever regret it? Coming back? Claiming the vow? You could have shifted and never returned. Could have found another pack, built a new life. One where no one knew you'd been mocked. Never. Not once. Sarah was certain. Because coming back wasn't just about collecting a debt. It was about proving to myself more than anyone that I was worth something. That I could transform pain into power. That the girl everyone dismissed could become the Luna everyone respects. You're more than respected, you're loved. By you, by me, by the pack, by every wolf who's seen what you've accomplished. He pulled her close. You came back to collect a vow. You ended up collecting an entire pack's devotion. Sarah laughed. That wasn't the plan. Plans change. Especially when you're dealing with a defective Omega who becomes an extraordinary Luna. I was never defective. I know. I'm sorry I ever thought you were. I'm sorry I said it. I'm Damon. She pressed her finger to his lips, a gesture that had become familiar, intimate. I know. And I forgive you. Completely. Finally. Let it go. He kissed her finger, then her palm, then pulled her hand to his heart. I'll spend the rest of our lives proving I'm worthy of that forgiveness. I know you will. That's why I gave it. They shifted together, smooth, practiced, perfect. Her white wolf and his black wolf ran through the forest where she'd trained alone. But now she wasn't alone. Would never be alone again. When they returned to the clearing, shifting back to human form, Sarah spoke the words that had once been a vow of revenge but had become something else entirely. When I shift, you will make me Luna, she whispered. Damon smiled, adding his own words. And when you claimed me, you made me whole. 1 week later, Camden found Sarah in the Pack Library, her favorite retreat, studying ancient texts about Omega bloodlines and pregnancy. Luna? Can I ask you something? Always. The boy sat across from her, his expression serious for one so young. When you were in the wilderness, training, suffering, were you ever tempted to give up? Sarah considered the question carefully. Every day, especially in the beginning. The pain was unbearable. The loneliness was crushing. And there were moments when I thought dying would be easier than continuing. What stopped you? Anger at first. I was so angry at the Alpha for mocking me. At the pack for laughing. At myself for being weak enough to let their words hurt me. She closed her book. But anger can only sustain you for so long. Eventually, I had to find a different reason. What reason? Me. I stayed for me. Because I realized that shifting wasn't about proving anything to Damon or the pack. It was about proving something to myself. That I could do hard things. That I could transform pain into power. That I was worth the effort it took to become whole. Camden nodded slowly. I felt that way too. Before I shifted, everyone kept asking when my wolf would come, and I wanted to give up. Wanted to accept that maybe I'd never shift. But then I met you, and you showed me it was possible. That late bloomers could still be powerful. You are powerful, Camden. You shifted at 14, that's not even that late. You just needed someone to believe in you. You believed in me when no one else did. Not even myself. He stood. Thank you, Luna, for everything you've done. For changing the pack. For showing us that different doesn't mean less. After he left, Sarah sat alone with her thoughts. She thought about the girl she'd been frightened, ashamed, convinced she was broken. She thought about the journey through wilderness and pain that had transformed her. She thought about Damon, about forgiveness, about love earned rather than given. And she thought about the future, a pup on the way, a pack that valued strength, in all its forms. Young wolves like Camden, who would grow up knowing that being different was something to celebrate rather than hide. The white wolf that had once been dormant stirred in her mind Alara, ancient and wise, satisfied with the life they'd built. We did it, Sarah said silently to her wolf. We became exactly what we needed to be. No, Alara corrected gently. We became exactly what we always were. We just finally had the courage to show it. Sarah smiled and returned to her reading, researching Omega pregnancies, preparing for the next chapter of her life. The defective Omega who couldn't shift was gone, replaced by the Luna, who had proven that sometimes the most powerful transformations happen to those who refuse to accept the limits others place on them. When Damon found her hours later, still reading by lamplight, he simply sat beside her and took her hand. No words needed, just presence, just love, just the certainty that they were exactly where they belonged. Together. That night, as they lay in bed, tangled together as they always were now, Sarah spoke into the darkness. Damon, do you remember what you said to me that night at the ceremony? Every word. It haunts me. Tell me again. I want to hear it. He was confused but complied. I said, still can't shift? How tragic. And then I made the vow. If you shift into your wolf, I'll make you Luna. And I said, you said, when I shift, you will make me Luna. And I'll hold you to every word. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then, I'm glad you said it. What? I'm glad you were cruel that night. Glad you mocked me. Glad you made that vow. She turned to face him in the darkness. Because without that pain, I never would have left. Never would have found my wolf. Never would have become who I am now. Your cruelty was the catalyst that transformed my entire life. I don't deserve for you to see it that way. Maybe not. But it's how I see it, anyway. You broke me. But breaking isn't always the end. Sometimes it's just the beginning of becoming something stronger. Damon pulled her closer, his hand finding her stomach where their pup was growing. I'll make sure our child never knows that kind of cruelty. From me or anyone else. Good. But also, Sarah smiled in the darkness. Don't shelter them too much. A little struggle builds character. A little pain teaches resilience. Just let them know they're loved even when they struggle. That's what makes the difference. Thanks for watching. Loved and valued and seen, Damon agreed. Always. They fell asleep like that. Two wolves who had found their way through darkness to light, through hate to love, through breaking to healing. And somewhere in the wilderness where Sarah had trained alone, where she'd suffered and transformed and become whole, a white wolf howled at the moon. Not in pain. Not in longing. But in triumph. Because she had kept her vow. She had collected her debt. And she had proven that sometimes the most magnificent transformations come from the deepest wounds. When I shift, you will make me Luna. The vow had been kept. The Luna had been made. And the defective Omega had become extraordinary. The end.